Welcome to another one of my videos. You can help support this channel by subscribing and liking, and by grabbing one of my free ebooks. I'll leave a link to my website in the upper right hand corner, and I will also leave a link in the description so you can look over all my free ebooks. Now to the video. In today's video, we will be listening to an audiobook of the novella Kitten and Kraken'a. Kitten and Kraken'a is a standalone apocalyptic science fiction story and part of the Shades of Grey universe. The story of Kitten and Kraken'a takes place before the events of Shades of Grey #1, Noir, City Shrouded by Darkness. So at the end of this read, I will have a link to Shades of Grey #1 if you would like to listen to that audiobook. So look for the link later. It will also be in the description if you would like to know more about the Shades of Grey universe. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the read.
Kitten and Kraken'a, Tales from the Shades of Grey Universe, by Kristie Lynn Higgins. Copyright 2019. Chapter 1. Not exactly the beginning of the story. Once upon a time, or that was how the story should start, but was this tale only a story? Maybe this tale was the beginning of something new, horrible, and wondrous? The world in which this story took place was governed by corporations, and mile-thick dry clouds encompassed half the earth, blanketing that portion of the planet in endless night. A department within the Sphinx Corporation known as the Council had acquired a special and dangerous experiment from the Sphinx Corporation Third Branch Office. The project was en route to the secret location of the Sanctum where the Council conducted their business and experiments, and the project was heavily guarded by SCMs. The year was 14 IDC, and the day looked as much dark as the night. Within the Sanctum, deep in its bowels, a different project than the one that was being escorted to the Sanctum awoke from a long sleep. Her project name was Kraken'a. An unusual sensation woke this dreaded and feared project. Kraken'a felt something and also heard something at the same time. These two senses drew her from one of her self-induced hibernations as Kraken'a became in sync with something. This unusual sensation had a rhythm to it, and it was somewhat calming and intriguing at the same time. She opened her eyes and saw she was lying on a bed within her cell. The level consisted of many prison cells, or maybe containment units was a better term. Kraken'a was usually alone on this floor, but minutes ago, many people entered the prison cell level. She heard and felt what had drawn her from her sleep. The sound and vibrations were very soft but rhythmic. These sensations were very soothing, but Kraken'a ignored them. She didn't want to be soothed. Kraken'a went to the mangled door she long ago destroyed to leave her cell. The council decided to allow her off her leash and to allow her to freely roam the Sanctum as she pleased. Even if they wanted to, the council couldn't stop her for long. Kraken'a had gotten bored, so she had gone to sleep, and she believed it had been about 8 months since she last woke. She entered the main corridor that connected most of the maximum security prison cells. No one else was down there. Kraken'a had long ago hunted and killed all those who they had imprisoned there with her. She entered the main corridor and found something peculiar even for her twisted mind. A child was in the hallway with shackles on her wrists and ankles. An SCM unit, consisting of 10 soldiers and wearing dark green uniforms, was escorting the child, and they were on edge as if the child was some violent, bloodthirsty beast. They even had her little wrists shackled close together, and her ankle chains were short so that she could only take small steps. A metal collar attached to a pole was around her tiny neck, and the SCM, holding the pole 6 feet from her, looked a little afraid of the child. She was wearing a blue hospital gown, and she was barefooted. The SCM unit halted as the creature they had hoped to avoid blocked their path like some violence-hungry reptilian monster. The SCM leader had been told Kraken'a was asleep. Now his unit would have to deal with 2 dangerous monsters. Kraken'a stood at 7 foot and 3 inches tall, with green moist skin speckled by patches of red and yellow, and her mood dictated the depth of the color's brilliance. Kraken'a had a tail and the cone head of the veiled chameleon, but otherwise, the rest of her appearance was mostly humanoid. She was hairless and wore no clothing. She needed no clothing. Her tail trailed behind her in the air like a ship's rudder. Her eyes were serpent-like, and her 5-fingered hands had long retractable claws. Her skin was usually green but did change with her mood, and right now her skin was an excited blue-green. The SCM leader considered retreating and coming back with 2 more units if he had to deal with Kraken'a. She didn't give him an opportunity to retreat. The beastly woman couldn't wait to sink her claws into something. She hadn't had any prey in a long time, and now she had a very cute little kitten to play with. It was about to be playtime. Chapter 2. A kitten shows up. The soldiers were terrified as they stood between two extremely dangerous projects. Kraken didn't see the child as dangerous. The child was just something new to hunt. The child stood there with no fear of Kraken as she approached the child and her escort. The soldiers were not as calm, but they had already had dealings with Kraken before, so they remained at their positions. Kraken stared at the child, waiting on her to scream at her hideous form and try and run away from the monster prowling toward her, but she just stared at Kraken in turn. The little girl had brown hair and hazel eyes. Kraken was fixated on her. The 10 SCMs aimed at the reptile woman with their XM8 assault rifles as she approached them. "What is this?" Kraken asked, referring to the girl. The lead SCM told her, "Return to your room. We have been given orders to escort this dangerous project to its room." Kraken ignored the soldier's order as she appeared at the adorable girl that reminded her of something. And then she asked, "What have you brought me? Have you brought me a kitten?" "We have our orders," the lead soldier insisted. Their destination wasn't that far, so if he could just get his unit around the reptile woman, they would be in the clear. He stated as if presenting a case for the monster to let them by. "We are to take this project to its cell." "You're putting a kitten in a cell," Kraken spoke, and then she laughed. "Why would you do a thing like that?" Kraken was several yards away from them as she extended her 4-inch claws and told the soldiers, "I have not had a toy in such a long time. Give me the kitten so I may play with her." The reptile woman didn't give the SCMs time to respond and attacked the 9 soldiers, quickly slicing through them with ease. A few of them got off a few shots, but they didn't even slow down the reptile woman. Kraken left the one holding the pole for last. The SCM looked more afraid of releasing the pole and the girl than he was of the reptile woman hurting him. The last soldier stood still for a few moments more, but then he panicked and turned to run. Kraken slashed across him and splattered some of his blood on the girl's face, who had turned in the metal pole collar to watch. The girl never reacted to the carnage all around her. The last soldier dropped the pole before he fell to the floor, and Kraken believed the girl would run. But she stood very still, waiting on her as if Kraken was the one who dictated her actions. The reptile woman swiped her hands a couple of times, ridding her claws of the blood before she retracted them. Even in their retracted state, her claws were an inch long. She bared her fangs at the girl, but the girl just continued to stand there as if she didn't understand the concept of fear. Kraken circled her like some hungry shark. The girl continued to stare at her with her emotionless hazel eyes. Kraken was about to say something to her to see if she was even alive when she walked right up to the reptile woman and took one of her clawed pinky fingers. "Are you like me?" Kraken didn't answer her. Was the girl blind? Couldn't she tell that she was some sort of monster? They were nothing alike. "You are like me," the girl spoke, confirming her own question. "How am I like you, kitten?" She looked around at the dead and dying soldiers and answered, "You hurt people." The girl glanced around the hallway and asked, "Is this the prison? I was told I would meet the warden here. Are you the one who's going to punish me?" Kraken was intrigued by this new prey and let the girl live a few moments more as she answered her. "I'm more of a hunter. I hunt things, and then I kill things. I'm prey," the girl asked as if accepting such a bizarre title. Kraken once again stared into her fearless hazel eyes. She had come across such an interesting little thing. And she told her, "Yes, you are prey, and I am the predator. If it is punishment you seek, I can give you that as I kill you. Now run so I may chase you." She was so sure the girl would plead for her life or start crying. But the girl tilted her head in the most adorable way as if studying the reptile woman. Kraken tensed as she made ready to chase the prey. The girl looked down at her ankle shackles and said, "I can't run in these. I'll have to walk." Her answer upset Kraken, and she snapped, "No, the prey must flee and your heart must pound away your dread." "It does hurt here," Kitten said as she placed her left palm on her chest. For the first time, the girl appeared to have emotions as sadness and sorrow became all-encompassing around her tiny body. Kraken relaxed her stance as she again considered the bizarreness of the prey. "The heart is very fragile," the reptile woman finally told her after considering the girl's statement. "I will make sure you don't suffer long." She bore her fangs again, not in a snarl but a smile. Kraken might not be hunting that very moment, but the anticipation was so exhilarating. Kitten might be more worthy prey than she first thought. Kraken thought she had come across just a toy, but Kitten was so interesting. Her smile quickly left as Kraken noticed the girl was still holding onto her clawed pinky finger. She swiped that hand with a little more force than she intended and sent the girl flying across the hallway. The girl rolled across the floor, metal pole and pole collar violently rattling. The child came to rest and was slow to get up as the heavy chains and the metal pole collar were bulky for a child her size. The sound Kraken had first woke to drummed slowly and then faded into the background. She prepared to pounce on the girl as soon as she rose, but then Kraken heard a large number of soldiers coming their way. They had come to stop her, so Kraken extended her claws and readied herself to shred them to pieces. They would soon learn of their error for ever taking her on. "There it is!" their leader shouted. "Quick, take it down. Don't let it attack. Take it down before it comes at us." The 4 SCM units fired, and Kraken ran at them to engage, but they weren't firing at her. She attacked the first soldier and saw that they were armed with tranquilizer guns and not their usual assault rifle. The other SCMs shot the girl full of darts until she fell to the floor out cold. Kraken stopped her attack and shoved the unlucky and yet very lucky soldier to the ground. Council SCMs had learned it was a death sentence to tick Kraken off, so the soldier rose back to his feet and did nothing. Kraken, the voice of Chimin, came over the intercom. He was the 3rd highest ranking member of the council. "I see that you are awake again and that you have indulged in your bloodlust. You should really talk to me before you kill anyone. I prefer when you allow me to select your victims. It is less costly." "The child," Kraken started. "You mean Pan? I don't care what her name is. I don't want to hear it. She's a kitten, and I want to play with her." Kraken glanced back at the now sleeping girl and said, "Make arrangements, and I'll quietly go back to my cell." "I can do that," Chimin told her. "Your kitten will not be awake for a while, but as soon as it is, I'll let you play with it. I'll let you have the first turn with it." Kraken wasn't sure Chimin understood. Once she had her turn with Kitten, no one else would have a turn. Chapter 3. Getting ready for a hunt. The debtors' prisons were created to house those who were unable to pay off debts owed to corporations. Prisoners were often offered ways to pay off some or all of their debts so that they could be released earlier, and these offers were usually dangerous. The next day, Chimin allowed Kraken the use of the above-ground area the SCMs used to train. It was a mock-up of a 10-block city area with buildings and streets. There were even real trees and grass. Kraken was going to use it as a giant playground. She wanted to make sure her new kitten had plenty of room to run. 4 SCMs delivered Kitten with the same getup she was wearing yesterday except for an added harness, and her chains had been removed from her ankle manacles. She still had on the ankle manacles. The new harness was buckled across her chest and had a handle on her back. Her wrists were still in shackles. "I'll take her now," Kraken informed the soldiers. The one soldier with the pole acted like he was afraid to release Kitten from the contraption for her. So Kraken smacked his hands and took the pole from him. "Leave. I do not need your assistance," Kraken ordered them. "I hunt alone. You have 2 hours to play with the kitten," one of the SCMs informed her. "Chimin has plans for it." Kraken spoke. "Tell Chimin, I doubt she'll last 20 minutes. He should cancel his plans for this girl. She will shortly be no more. We will be back in 2 hours," the soldier repeated as he ignored the reptile woman's comments. And then the SCMs left. She grumbled as the soldiers mostly ignored her, and then she turned her attention to the new prey. Kraken unhooked the pole from the girl's collar and noticed there was a white bell attached to the red collar. The collar was different than the one yesterday. It was made from red leather and not metal. Kraken focused in on the white bell. She bet Chimin put it there to be cute. Kraken thought about tearing the bell from her collar. She didn't need the bell to tell her where the prey was. Kraken then decided it didn't really matter. Kitten wouldn't be alive for very long. Kraken decided to inspect her prey to see what sort of handicap she should give herself for the hunt. She grabbed the girl by both shoulders and turned her around to examine her back. Kitten complied without being told and turned as she turned her. "Why did they put this harness on you?" Kraken grabbed the handle on her back and lifted her tiny frame off the ground. And the girl didn't move like she couldn't? Kraken watched as her cute little face wrinkled all up like she had tasted something sour. She wanted to pinch the little girl's cheeks but restrained herself. "It's like I'm grabbing you by your scruff." She put her down, and the sour expression on her face left. "I don't know why they put this harness on me," Kitten answered a few moments later. "You're so small," Kraken told her. And then she asked, "What are you, 8? "I'm 13, Kitten replied as if it was so obvious. "You're very tiny for your age. You're definitely a kitten." Kraken noticed she was rubbing her chest in between the straps of the harness. Kraken spoke. "You said that you were hurting there yesterday. Are you still in pain?" Kitten nodded and said, "My heart. It can be broken," Kraken told her. "Never mind it. You have other things to worry about." "Why are we here?" Kitten asked as she looked around the mock city. "Remember how I told you that I'm the predator and I'm the prey?" The girl interrupted her. Kraken spread her arms wide and answered her. "Here is where we'll play our game." "Play?" Kitten questioned her. "Have you ever been on a playground or in a playroom?" Kitten got this frightened look on her face as she nodded. "This is our playroom." "Oh." Kitten spoke as if she was expecting something different. "Run along now," Kraken shooed her off. "I will give you 10 minutes. No 15 minutes, and then I'll come and hunt. Are you going to kill me? Kitten questioned her. The reptile woman expected to hear more fear from the child, but it was as if Kitten was asking about a simple rule to some game. Yes, Kraken impatiently answered as she couldn't wait to start the hunt. Now run along and, can't you just kill me here? The girl asked. I'm very tired and, no, Kraken yelled at her. I have to chase you or track you down for it to be a hunt. You don't look like you can run very fast, so I will track you down. I don't think I understand this game, Kitten stated, and then she asked, what do you want out of it? The reptile woman started to yell at her because the girl hadn't done as she had instructed her, but maybe if Kraken explained a little as to what she wanted, the hunt would be more enjoyable. The prey needed to understand her part in this. I am the predator, and it is my job to find you and kill you. You are the prey, and it is your job to hide from me and not allow me to catch you. I think I understand, the girl said as a look of purpose and determination sparked from her eyes. I will do my best. Do your best, the bloodthirsty beastly woman thought. Do your best, and I will do mine. And soon you will be dead. Chapter 4. The hunt. The hunt would soon begin. Kitten ran ahead and entered the city. Kraken impatiently waited about 15 minutes and then decided to give her another 5 minutes before she slowly entered the city. The sounds of city life played over a track at her request. It sounded like about 1,000 people were there, but it was just the two of them. Kraken tracked the girl all over the city. She was surprised and pleased she didn't find the girl right away. Kraken tracked her into many buildings and then to a park in the center of the city. It had been almost 2 hours since she started the hunt. Kraken thought she would kill her within the first 20 minutes, but the girl had proven to be a little elusive. She followed Kitten's tracks through the park, and her tracks seemed to be everywhere. Kraken paused under a tall tree to consider how far she should backtrack when a voice interrupted her thoughts. Did I do well? Kraken looked up into the tall tree and saw Kitten. I should have known, Kraken told her. If I am looking for a kitten, I should look up in a tree. She examined the tree and asked the girl, how did you climb up this huge tree? I like climbing, the girl answered her as a childlike wonder filled her face. I get very few opportunities to climb. It was so much fun climbing this tree, but I had to make sure to be quiet so you wouldn't find me. You did well to keep your presence from me, Kraken said, very pleased to have prey that was much more than she appeared. She commanded the girl, come down here. Is the hunt over? No, Kraken answered. Kitten told her as she gleefully hung onto a branch as if she was resisting the urge to swing on it like she was on the monkey bars. I will wait till the hunt's over before I come down. Kraken considered that the prey was somewhat bright and commented, a kitten stuck in a tree. You could climb up here, the girl told her. You could hunt me up here, or are you unable? Maybe she was very smart. Maybe Kitten was a cunning kitten with room to grow. Kraken answered her. You would think with my physiology that I could, but no, I'm a poor climber. I will not be able to hunt you up there. Call the hunt over and I'll come down, the girl told her. Call this game over and I'll come down. Kraken looked up and saw the girl was about 100 feet off the ground. She wouldn't be able to jump up and take a swipe at her. Kraken could find another way to climb up or knock Kitten from the tree, but then she decided this was enough for her first hunt. She was about to give in and call it off for the day when the SCMs returned. We are here for the Pandora project. It would seem with this prey that 2 hours isn't enough. Kraken complained as she wanted to hunt the girl again, and this time, she wanted to shorten the time between Kitten running off and her chasing after her. Kraken would have to wait, and she said, I want Kitten tomorrow. Tell Chimin, I want her for more than 2 hours. The soldier replied, Chimin must have foreseen this. He wanted me to let you know you can have Kitten again tomorrow and for longer. The soldier looked up and commanded, Pandora, come down. It is time for your next appointment. The girl couldn't resist any longer and swung on the branch like some little monkey as she said, I will as soon as Kraken tells me the hunt is over. The soldier yelled, Pandora, come down now or I'll make you come down. Kitten repeated as she stepped back to a branch and secured her foothold again. I will as soon as Kraken tells me. He lifted his tranquilizer gun and fired 2 darts into Kitten. She swayed a little on the tree branch, then released her hold of the branch and plummeted for the ground. The sound that had faded returned with force and urged Kraken to quickly react. She jumped up about 20 feet and caught the girl. Kraken landed on the ground and glared at the soldier. The SCM realized how much danger he had put himself in as he had angered the great and horrible Kraken project. He thought about apologizing to the reptile woman, but he didn't know if a sign of weakness would only plunge Kraken's claws into him sooner. He nearly held his breath, seeing what she would do. You could have damaged her, Kraken yelled at him. The soldier still didn't breathe, fearing for his life. He decided he couldn't stand there forever, so he was about to say something when the team leader spoke before him. It needs to learn to obey us, the SCM leader stated. Maybe next time it will do as it is told. Kraken thought about killing all the soldiers, but then she thought of Chimin and that she shouldn't anger him too much. She glanced down at the girl in her arms. Kitten was unharmed, and she would be able to hunt her again tomorrow. Kraken handed her to a different soldier, and the female soldier took her from the reptile woman. Chapter 5. A tree. Kraken didn't sleep that night. She didn't need much sleep since she went into long periods of hibernation. She found that she was sitting on her bed excitedly twitching her tail back and forth like some cat who knew exactly where the mouse was hiding. Kraken went over exactly what type of hunt she wanted with Kitten. The next day came, and Kraken went back out to the mock city and soon, the same SCMs delivered Kitten to her at the exact same location. The soldiers left, and she removed the pole from the girl's red collar. Kraken flicked the tiny white bell on her collar, amused by how Kitten was almost like a cute little kitten. All she was missing was soft, fluffy fur and whiskers. She took a second look at the girl. Kitten seemed very tired, as if she hadn't slept since the last time they met. It was odd since they had pumped her full of sedatives, and she would have rested for the majority of the day. Kraken would have preferred a well-rested kitten. Prey that was well-rested was always better prey. Are we to play the same game? Kitten questioned her, pulling Kraken from her thoughts. We are. I will only give you a 10-minute head start this time. I have you longer, so I will be sure to catch and kill you. Kitten didn't say anything but ran off into the city to begin her part of the hunt. Kraken waited for 10 minutes, and then she followed after her. The girl's trail headed directly into the park, and Kraken found her where once the large tree had stood. She stalked the girl as Kitten squatted on what was left of the freshly cut tree trunk. Kraken was about to pounce on her when, "They cut it down," Kitten said. "They cut it down. Did they cut it because I wouldn't come down from the tree?" Kraken straightened her stance as the girl had spotted her and there was no need to stalk her. And then she answered, "Probably. It was over 300 years old. I counted the rings, and I'm up to 312. It is what happens when you disobey," Kraken told her as she came up from behind as if she would still pounce on her. "Things will get hurt if I disobey. What about people?" Kitten questioned as if Kraken was some great and wise teacher. "Will more people get hurt if I disobey?" "Probably," Kraken answered as she retook her stalking and extended her claws, preparing to attack. Her prey was right in front of her, and she couldn't resist. "I don't want anyone else to get hurt," the girl spoke as she still had her back to the reptile woman. "Please tell me if I'm doing something that will cause others to get hurt. Tell me to cease and be still, and I will understand if I do so. No one will get hurt." "No need," Kraken told her as she finally pounced and drove her claws deep into the girl's tiny back on both sides of the harness. "Your time on this earth has come to an end." Chapter 6. What to do now? The next day, Kraken moped around her cell, bored out of her mind. Kitten would have been more worthy prey if someone had not cut down the tree. Kraken considered finding out who had ordered the tree be cut down, but it would only be a waste of her time. She thought about asking Chimin if he could acquire some criminals for her from the debtors' prisons, or better yet, acquire some violent criminals to hunt. She started to head for his office when Chimin showed up in the main corridor outside her cell. He was a very attractive man with dark black hair and equally dark brown eyes. "Kraken, may I come in?" "Enter," she bid him. "I was just about to come and talk to you about." He entered with Kitten in tow with her usual escort. Kraken asked, "Did you clone this poor creature?" "No," Chimin answered her. "It is the same one you left for dead. You can play with it again." "Why would I want to?" "I believe the Pandora project can learn," Chimin explained to her. "Hunt her and make her better prey." Kraken stared at Kitten and bathed in the power that she had to change her fate. Could she actually hunt this girl over and over? Can she die? "Yes," he replied as he laughed. "Pandora is not indestructible. Take her head or take her heart and she will die. Wound her severely and she may come back. An ideal prey for an ideal predator." "I don't think she's up to being my prey," Kraken told him. "I killed her very easily. We only need a proper motivator for her," Chimin stated as if he already had a plan. "Allow me to motivate her, and she will be the ideal prey. I will give her another try. She did survive our first 2 hunts. No one has been that lucky." Chapter 7. New prey. About an hour later, Chimin, Kitten, her escort, and Kraken were back at the mock city. The reptile woman was so excited to be hunting again. The prey. Kitten was. Kitten just might be the prey she had been waiting for. Kraken wanted to hunt her again. She needed to hunt her again. She had to seek and destroy. Chimin turned and looked at Kitten and spoke. "Pandora, or should I say?" He took his finger and rang the small bell on her red collar. "Kitten?" The white bell rung, and he waited until it stopped before he asked, "Do you know why you are here?" Her whole demeanor changed to someone lost in misery as the girl replied, "I don't want to talk about it. Now. Kitten," he chastised her. "What have I told you?" She bowed her little head and answered, "What I want doesn't matter. I belong to the council and I must obey them." I am the Pandora Project. I am an experiment, and the Council's will is the only will that matters. Answer my question, Chimmin demanded. And then he asked, do you know why you are here? Kitten placed a hand to her chest as if shielding her heart, and then she replied, because of what happened in the playroom at the Sphinx Corporation 3rd branch office. Correct. I heard you nearly burned down an entire level and a handful of people died. Chimmin turned to the reptile woman and spoke, did you know that Kitten is a very special project? Kraken glared at him as she hated the delay to the hunt. Chimmin did like to talk, but she wanted to chase her prey. So Kraken stated, I do not care. You should care. She is your prey, and the predator should always know the prey. Fine. Tell me a little about her, but be quick about it, Kraken instructed him, already irritated with the delay. She started to hear something that edged its way closer to her own biological rhythms. The now familiar sound tried to sync with her again, but Kraken forcibly pushed it away. She compelled the rhythm to unlink from her, or more like she made herself unlink from it. Chimmin instructed the girl, Kitten, tell Kraken what you did. She bowed her little head again and then peered up at the reptile woman with this guilt-riddled look. And then Kitten said, I became stuck. Kraken was not sure of her meaning, but Chimmin seemed to understand, for he said, I heard it tell that it was more like you self-destructed and caused an explosion that nearly killed yourself, and almost killed everyone else in the room. They had to close level 13. They don't even know if they will ever be able to use that level again. Chimmin commanded, tell Kraken why you self-destructed. Doctor, Viles showed me a video, Kitten answered. What was the video of? It was of me. And who else? Chimmin asked, urging her to go on with her explanation. Kitten shook her head, refusing to answer. Speak, Chimmin snapped. I'm bad. So very bad, Kitten replied as she got this soul-sick expression on her face. I have to be punished. I deserve to be punished. The faint sound returned as if it refused to be unheard, and it grew increasingly louder. The sound was still in the distance, as if Kraken hadn't quite touched the source of it yet. She wanted to ignore this sound just as she had forced it away from her, but there was a small part of her who wanted to find its origin. Kraken seemed to sync with this rhythmic sound and kept in pace with it. She shook her head, ridding herself of the linking. She had better things to focus on. And that is why you are here, Chimmin told Kitten. You will play with Kraken, and by doing so, you will receive the punishment you deserve. Now, you will be playing a new game with Kraken. I am going to give you 3 red cards. He motioned into the distance and asked, see those people over there who are now coming in? Kitten turned and stared at the 2 men and the woman as they walked in, and she nodded. Kraken also turned and looked. The 3 of them were wearing a solid red jumpsuit, the debtor's color. It would seem that the council had brought in some defaulters from the debtor's prison. They were called debtors, or Debs for short. Chimmin continued to explain to the girl, those people are going to go hide in the city. You must find them before Kraken does, and you will give them one of these red cards. If Kraken finds them and they have a red card, she will do nothing to them. If Kraken finds them and they have no red card, then they will become prey like you. As long as you have 1 red card, Kraken can't hunt you or hurt you, so you could decide to keep one of the cards for yourself. Do you understand the game? Kitten nodded. Kraken, do you understand the game and the rules? I do, she told him. Chimmin spoke. The 3 Debs also know the rules and how the game is played. Kitten, you will have a 15-minute head start after I have given the Debs a 10-minute head start. Kraken smirked. She had 4 to hunt today, including Kitten. She was so thrilled that she could barely contain herself. More prey gave her more of an opportunity to find the ultimate hunt she has so desperately been seeking. Run. Kitten. Run. For soon the monster would be chasing you. Chapter 8. To hunt and to protect. Kitten prepared herself. It wasn't just her life on the line, but the 3 Debs. She was more focused and determined than the previous hunts. She didn't care what happened to herself, but she couldn't let anyone else get hurt. There was so much pressure on her for this hunt. The SCMs, who had dropped off the Debs, left. It was nearly time. The 3 Debs were given fluids to hydrate themselves, and then they were given the go-ahead. They raced into the city, knowing that their lives were on the line. The 3 Debs, who were selected from a large pool, owed a great deal of debt, and this hunt today would make them debt-free if they survived. Even if they didn't survive, their debt would still be eliminated so that their families wouldn't owe anything. Kraken and Kitten waited outside of the city. The reptile woman had been very impatient when she first started her hunts many years ago, but she had learned patience. She might have learned it, but she was still very eager to begin. Chimmin rang Kitten's tiny bell again, and Kraken didn't like that he was so close to her prey. She didn't like that he was anywhere near her prey. Kraken was about to say something to him, but then Chimmin turned and left along with the girl's escort, and soon only Kitten and Kraken were standing there. I have to save those people, Kitten spoke as her determined little face never changed. Yes, that is how the game's played, Kraken replied. I didn't mean it as a question, Kitten told her, and for the first time, Kraken saw a 13-year-old instead of an 8-year-old. The girl spoke. I meant it as a statement. Kitten's eyes never left the 3 people running in the distance as she said, I have to save those people. I can't let you hurt them. Kraken was very pleased. It looked like Chimman succeeded in motivating Kitten. But would it be enough to give Kraken the thrill that she needed for the chase? Would Kitten fail again to satisfy her predatory instincts? She decided to make it very clear to the girl and said, I won't hurt them if I catch them. I will kill them and they will stay dead. I know, Kitten replied. I have to make sure they stay alive. Too many people die. Kraken considered what the girl had said and asked more out of curiosity than out of concern for her. What about you? Are you going to keep one of those red cards for yourself? Kitten shook her head, and her little white bell rang. She hid something from the reptile woman. She hid the reason why she was at the Sanctum. I will kill you then, Kraken informed her. I know, Kitten said as if they were having a normal conversation. As if death was something that just happened to everyone every day. I can't be saved. I've been bad. Kraken peered down at her cute and still very determined face, seeing once again an 8-year-old, and asked, what could a kitten have done to make her believe that she has been so bad? I already told you, Kitten stated as she got this distant, sorrowful look. Some sort of dark and malicious creature stalked the girl from the shadows. It was as if some other predator had been hunting her since she came to the Sanctum. This predator only existed in the child's mind, existed like the guilt she wore, and was no different than the heavy manacles the council forced her to wear. Kitten spoke through a weighted heart. I'm like you. I hurt people. It didn't really matter why Kitten was there. Kraken would hunt her and make the girl her prey. She would chase her and track her like the Debs who had no chance against her bloodlust. Go on, Kraken urged her as her patience had come to its end. It's time you begin your hunt. The girl once again focused on what she had to do. Lives were at stake. Lives she could only save. Kitten ran toward the mock city. She had to quickly find all the Debs. The final prey was away and soon the chase would begin. Kraken's heart pounded for the exhilarating rush the anticipation gave her. A rush created by active stimuli and a reaction to it. It was like she was a leopard who could already taste the blood of her fresh kill. Kraken continued to wait for her turn to come. The jungle of concrete and metal called to her primeval instincts. Time slowed as the seconds ticked away, and the sinking attempted to link again. She watched Kitten, considering for the first time what the girl had said in the past. She claimed she was very bad. Kraken couldn't imagine her causing a paper cut, so she couldn't fathom her hurting anyone or anything. The sinking increased its efforts, and Kraken also found something else curious. As Kraken, she had never thought about someone enough to imagine or fathom anything about them. Kitten was curious prey and had lasted longer than any other prey, but Kraken guessed it was so only because she hadn't totally destroyed her. The sinking slipped as she warned herself to be careful. Kraken might require her humanity if she wasn't mindful of her thoughts. The time came, and Kraken started into the city. She came across a man in a restaurant and then a woman in a dress store, and they both had red cards. Kraken came across the second man in a hardware store, and he had a red card, but he also had a hold of Kitten by the handle of her harness. What do we have here? Has a rat caught a kitten? She spoke, and then she questioned the man. Why did you do this? I was told if I could catch the girl, my debt would be eliminated plus I would gain 50,000 credits. Kraken turned to her and asked, have we learned anything from this? Kitten. The girl seemed embarrassed as she replied, those I'm trying to save can trap me. I might want to save them, but they might also want something from me. Very good, Kraken told her, and then she ordered the man, release her. He did, and Kitten walked over to the reptile woman and asked, now what? Are you going to kill me? No, I want to play again, Kraken answered as she showed the girl what she held. I have collected 3 leaves. You must give a leaf to each victim or I will kill them. I'm really tired, Kitten told her, and her eyes were droopy. She asked as if she couldn't stay standing any longer, can I take a nap first? No, you can't take a nap, Kraken angrily answered her as the real age of the girl appeared before the reptile woman again. Aren't you too old for a nap? Kraken didn't hang on to her anger for very long and said, now, here, take the leaves and start. I already informed the other man and the woman to hide again someplace different. You are also to take their red card from them as proof that they didn't pick some leaf for themselves. Do you understand this new game? Kitten nodded. She had worked so hard to keep the Debs alive and now she would have to work as hard again. Kitten would make sure everyone survived. Chapter 9. Those saved. Kitten had won the first game, but the hunt was far from over. She slowly walked over to Kraken, took the leaves from her clawed hand, and then immediately rushed over to the man. He grabbed for her, and Kitten leapt up and kicked him in the ribs. He doubled over, and she placed the leaf in his hand, grabbed his red card, and took off out the door. Kraken smiled. Kitten was learning. She might even make a fine predator once she had gotten bigger if she would ever acquire her bloodlust. Kraken waited a shorter amount of time than last time before she began her hunt, and she found that Kitten had reached the other two before she found them. The girl had successfully saved the Debs for a second time. The 5 of them left the mock city and headed toward the exit. They paused halfway there as Kitten's escort came. A truck also pulled up in the distance. They sent it in case there were any bodies to pick up. Kraken told the soldiers, "Take the Debs. I still want to play with Kitten." "This way, the SCM," ordered the 2 men and the woman. The Debs followed the soldiers, and once they were about 20 feet away, Kraken turned to Kitten. "We are going to play one more game," Kraken started to explain as she showed the girl the 3 red cards she took from the Debs. "In this new game, you'll—" A shot interrupted her explanation, and they turned as the SCM fired twice more, killing all 3 Debs. Kitten ran over to them, and Kraken quickly followed her. Kraken stared at the dead victims and asked, "Why did you kill them?" "They didn't have their red cards, only some stupid leaves they kept waving in the air like they would save them," the SCM answered her. One of the men was also yelling about he was the rat who had caught the kitten. The girl turned to Kraken, and she looked like she was going to cry as she said, "I didn't save them. I lost the game. I thought I had saved them, but I took my eyes off of them." Kraken was very upset and thought about killing the SCM, but he was only following orders. She could blame herself. Kraken did take their red cards. She looked at Kitten and decided to turn it into a lesson. Death was part of life and was never fair, and the girl needed to know this. "What have you learned?" she asked the girl. "Even if I think the game is over, it might not be," Kitten replied. And then she added, "It's my fault these people died." "It is," Kraken agreed with her. "Come, we still need to finish our other game." "It hurts. It hurts more than it did." Kitten spoke up as she once again placed her hand on her chest. "Your heart can be torn in 2. "It was already torn in 2, Kitten told her. "I had to give my heart away, so I tore it in 2. "It hurts so much." "Why does it hurt so much when it is only in 2 pieces? Kraken explained to her. "That's because it can shatter into hundreds of pieces, and each piece can be in pain. Learn from your pain, grow from your pain, and you may yet be successful." Prey. Chapter 10. A short break to think. Some time later, Kraken peered down at the still body of Kitten. It was also disappointing. She shouldn't have gone ahead and played the next game. Kitten was so depressed that she easily caught her, and she nearly killed her for a second time. Kraken looked at the girl's blood that covered her claws. Kitten was so connected to strangers, her concerns for their safety. She was more concerned about strangers than she was of her own welfare, and with them eliminated from the equation, she had nothing to fight for. The deaths of the Debs affected how well she was as prey. Kraken was greatly disappointed. She should have waited. The rhythm from before. It was so slow, almost non-existing. Something was off with this recent intrusion that was growing more familiar. The sound. It was disconnected, and the unsyncing made her irritable. Whatever Kraken had refused to link with had connected to her on its own, and now that she was unconnected, she felt displaced, like she had lost her way. Her purpose. It was almost as if her life had been better when she was connected to this rhythm. Kraken forced herself to move away from the deeper awareness and focus on what was right in front of her. Her prey. The last hunt was not to her liking. It had caused a bad taste to linger in her mouth. Her obsession hadn't been satisfied. She would have to be more careful in the future and gauge the readiness of the prey if she wanted a worthy chase. She didn't know how much longer Kitten would last, so she needed to make sure the next hunt had no interference. Chapter 11. Struggle till you're dead. The next day, Kitten was presented to Kraken once again just outside the mock city, and she looked a little more haggard than last time. Kraken grabbed her chin, lifted her face, noticed the dark circles under her eyes, and questioned, "Are you sure she is completely healed from the wounds I inflicted on her?" The lead SCM told her, "It completely healed last night from what you did to it. You are not the only one to play with it. There are a few others running experiments on it while it lasts." The soldier left, and Kraken noticed something that she hadn't noticed before. "You are starting to smell. Do they not have you bathe?" "I do every—" Kraken grabbed Kitten by the handle of her harness, and the small girl didn't move as Kraken walked some distance to a fountain within the park. She decided it would not do for the prey to have such a strong smell. She would be able to track her down too easily. Kraken stopped in front of the fountain, and without warning, she tossed Kitten into the water like some wishing penny. Water splashed up, and she was completely drenched. Kitten immediately got out of the fountain, but her exit was awkward and rash, like she was disoriented and trying to flee something that would devour her. Kitten tumbled out of the fountain and to the ground. She was slow to rise. "You should have stayed in longer," Kraken scolded her. "You could use a good soaking." "It's cold," Kitten informed her as she wrapped her arms around herself. "It's too cold." Kraken sniffed the air and said, "You smell better. Come, it will be just the two of us playing today." "What game will we be playing?" Kitten quivered out her question as her tiny body started to shiver. "I'm going to show you exactly what type of predator I am," Kraken explained to her. "I won't be holding back like I've been doing. I want you to understand just how unmatched we are. I want you to see so that you can improve." "I'm very tired," Kitten told her as she continued to shiver. "I know I can't take a nap, but can I sit on the ground for a few minutes and rest?" "No, Kitten. When you are being hunted, there is no such thing as rest," Kraken told her. Kraken considered her prey did look cold, and she considered what to do about it. Running would warm her up, so she urged the girl to start doing so by telling her, "I will count to 20. 1, 2. You better start running. 3, 4. I'm going to bite you this time." Kitten just stood there, so Kraken bared her sharp teeth at her. Kitten took off running, and Kraken smiled as she enjoyed teasing the prey. She watched the girl run and her mad sprint quickly slowed. Kitten did seem more tired each day. She thought the girl would get plenty of rest after their games. What else were they doing to her? Kraken at first thought it didn't matter unless they were making her prey tired. She raced after Kitten and easily tracked her down. Kraken could smell that peculiar scent again. For the first time, the full thrill of the hunt coursed through her blood as Kraken didn't hold back. It was so exhilarating. She was still running when Kraken found her. Kitten turned as she ran up behind her, and Kraken knocked her to the ground and thrust her one hand's claws through her tiny chest, careful not to hit her heart or puncture any vital arteries. Kraken also didn't inject her with her venom. She wanted her to stay awake. Pain immediately crossed her small face, and Kraken believed she would struggle and fight her. But she just laid her arms out beside herself. Kitten stared up at her with this pathetic and yet adorable face splattered by her own blood. Kraken went in for the kill, and she saw that Kitten was still only staring at her. "Why are you not fighting to stay alive? Isn't this my punishment?" Kitten questioned her through the pain. "Do you mean your punishment for losing the game?" She shook her head as this grievous, sorrow-filled expression plastered itself across her face as she whispered, "Isn't this my punishment for what I did?" "I don't care what you did," Kraken told her. "But if you just give up, you won't save anyone." "I lost," Kitten said. "You haven't lost until you're dead," Kraken spoke. "In this world, you have to keep fighting until you're dead." Kitten questioned her wise teacher. "I can save people if I don't give up." "You might," Kraken answered, noticing once again that the girl didn't care about herself, only others. "Can't give up," Kitten spoke as her eyes started to droop, not from exhaustion this time, but from blood loss. Her determination was still there as it had been there when Kraken hunted the Debs and she had to protect them. Kitten lifted her arms that were trembling in pain and grabbed hold of Kraken's hand that had its claws sunk into her flesh. Kitten didn't have the strength to stop her, but she did try. With time, she would be able to get stronger. Kraken only needed to keep training her, and no, this wouldn't do. Kraken was surprised by her thoughts. Did she actually believe the girl would live long enough to grow up? Kitten's time with her would be fleeting. Kraken would have to utilize the prey while she was with her. Kraken let her squirm for a few minutes just to allow her to think she was accomplishing something. And then Kraken took her other hand and struck her twice with her claws. She injected her venom this time, and the struggle was over within a minute. Kitten's arms limply fell to her side as Kraken's venom forced her to pass out before the pain did. Kraken again forgot the prey wouldn't always be with her. She could train Kitten to be better prey. She just had to be patient. Kraken stared at her blood that was on her claws, and she considered using her abilities and peering into the girl's future. She thought about Kitten's future, but she seemed to connect with her past as her one ability activated. It was a past that was lived on. Kraken forcibly blocked her future sight, and she no longer picked up anything from Kitten. She decided against using her ability on the girl anymore. The hopes Kraken had for better prey fled her again as reality once more came into focus. She doubted Kitten would last another 3 weeks. No need to look into her future where only a void existed. Chapter 12. Curiosity got the Kraken. Kraken picked up the girl's tiny body, threw her small 8-year-old-like frame over her shoulder, and carried her out of the mock city. Kraken scolded herself. She was too enthusiastic about the hunt. She should have waited on the kill until she had played with Kitten 2 or 3 more times. If she had only thought about it, she could have slightly injured the girl with her claws, and they could have played some more. Kitten's escort met the reptile woman. The council was always monitoring them, so they must have known she ended their playtime early. She handed Kitten off to one of them as she spoke to the lead SCM. "She has been complaining about being tired." "How much does my Kitten sleep?" "I don't know," he answered. "We are only assigned to pick her up from her cell, deliver her to you, and then take her to the playroom." Kraken headed for her cell as the SCMs took Kitten and headed for their next destination. Kraken entered the main corridor that connected most of the maximum security prison cells and decided she had to know. She hurried to her cell and climbed up into the duct between levels and went in search of Kitten. Kraken had learned how to avoid the security cameras. She was very good at hiding and stalking. Kraken crawled through duct after duct searching for where they were taking Kitten until she caught wind of her prey. The odd smell was strong again. She wondered if the poor child ever got a proper bath. Kraken guessed it didn't matter. Kitten was a project owned by the council, not unlike how Kraken was a project owned by the council. The only difference was that the council, actually, all of the Sanctum feared her and let her go about as she willed. Kraken continued to trail the girl. Soon she would discover why her Kitten was always so tired. Chapter 13. The Playroom. Kraken easily tracked Kitten down as she continued to smell that peculiar smell. Kraken made a hole in the duct in the ceiling and peered down into a room. Kitten was laid out on an examining bed. She was still unconscious from her venom and bleeding from the wound she inflicted. A man wearing latex gloves moved to the girl as he wheeled over a biohazard cart. He took a pair of scissors and removed her bloody hospital gown, leaving her underwear on, and threw the gown into a biohazard container. Kitten might claim to be 13, but her body was very undeveloped for her age. Who knew how they created this project? She considered that Kitten might be a clone. There were already a few within the Sanctum. Kraken continued to watch the man work. She found it odd that he left her harness on. It would be easier to take it off and then remove her gown. The man moved over to a player and activated it. Something like classical music played over the speakers. Kraken didn't recognize the tune. The man moved over to a counter and sink, grabbed a handful of paper towels, wet them, then moved over to Kitten. He wiped the blood away, and as he did, Kraken could see that her wounds were slowly sealing. The man went back and forth from the sink to the examining bed until he had cleaned all the blood from Kitten. A yellowish substance was flowing out of the wounds. It was Kraken's venom. She watched amazed as Kitten's surface wounds all healed, and she woke. "Sit up, Pandora," the man ordered her. She did, and he placed a clean blue hospital gown on her that had a section of it cut out. Kraken wondered if they were that afraid of Kitten that they never took the harness off and cut holes in her garments to go around the harness. He tied the strings of the gown in the back. Kraken continued to watch from her lofty perch. "Pandora, go sit in your chair," he ordered. She slid off the bed, walked over to a chair, and sat. The man strapped her little wrists and ankles to the chair with her manacles and secured her in place. "Dr. Viles, Pandora is ready." "Thank you," a man said, whose face was wrapped up in bandages as if he had been injured or burned. Kraken wasn't sure why a man in his condition would continue to work. Dr. Viles stated, "We will continue with the experiment we were conducting yesterday." Kraken watched them conduct the experiment on the girl for 5 hours. Kraken could be very patient. After some time, different SCMs showed up and took the exhausted Kitten. Kraken followed them. She would find out if there was more to Kitten being so exhausted than the lengthy experiments being conducted by Dr. Viles. Chapter 14. Kitten's Scruff. Kraken followed the soldiers, thinking they were taking Kitten to her cell. She could see through the ceiling and detected their heat signatures. Kitten fell a couple of times and was slower to rise with each sequential fall. Never once did they assist her. Good. Her prey would only grow stronger if she depended on her own strength. She couldn't have a weak Kitten. They took the girl to a part of the Sanctum Kraken had never been in, and they entered a room called the examining room. The SCMs went into the room and remained. There were 3 people in the room. One grabbed Kitten by her scruff and lifted her. She made the same cute face she had when Kraken grabbed her by her scruff. Kraken wanted to pinch her little cheeks every time she had made the face. Her prey was so adorable. She could just eat her up. The man placed the girl face down on an examining table. He secured her by using her wrist and ankle shackles and chained her to the examining bed. The man moved around to the head of the table where Kitten's head was positioned within a cushion with a hole for her face. He grabbed her red collar and her little white bell rang, and then he chained her collar to the table to secure her in place. Another man came over as the first man continued his work. The second man grabbed a hold of her harness handle, parted her gown in the back, and hooked up some sort of contraption by connecting it to the harness through the handle, confirming there was a purpose to that ridiculous thing. The 2 men finished and moved away from Kitten, and then the third man turned on a machine. Kitten started screaming, and the odor Kraken had smelled earlier intensified as some sort of electricity was shot into the girl. Kitten continued to scream, and then the third man turned off the machine. The reptile woman had seen enough and headed back to her cell. Kraken found that she was standing in her cell. Her prey, Kitten, had been tired all of this time because they had been putting her tiny body through inhuman experiments. Kraken would never have the hunt she deserved if the prey was tired and weary from others' joys and curiosities. Kraken decided she couldn't have that. She left her cell and some time later entered the examining room from the hallway. She informed the men there, "I'm taking Kitten for a few days." Kraken moved over to the girl and found that she had passed out. She started to remove the contraption, but it seemed to be locked in place. Kraken found it easier to cut through the wires connecting the contraption to a machine, and so she left the contraption connected to the harness. She picked Kitten up by her harness handle, forgetting she was chained to the bed, so Kraken only lifted her off the bed a few inches. The lead scientist declared, "You can't just barge in here and take it." She asked him, "Are you going to stop me? If I want to keep my life, I suppose I'll have to let Pandora go, but perhaps you could have it longer. I have heard about your venom. Give me some of your venom and in exchange, you can have Pandora all to yourself for 3 days. I'll even talk to Dr. Viles. I can agree to your conditions, but I want her a week," Kraken told him. She set Kitten back on the bed, walked over to him, and extended her claws. Kraken peered at him as if remembering all the torture he put the girl through and then stabbed her claws through his abdomen. She injected a large amount of her venom, and he blacked out. No one other than her could hurt her prey. Kitten was hers and hers only. Chapter 15. Kitten has a temporary new home. The examining room reminded Kraken too much of the room she would never return to, the room where her life as Kraken began. It was so stifling in there. She returned to Kitten's side, broke all 5 of her manacles tethering her to the bed, freeing the girl from her chains. Kraken lifted her by her harness handle and took the girl to her own cell. Kitten was still unconscious, so she laid the girl on her own bed on her stomach. About 20 minutes went by before the girl opened her eyes. "Is it time to play our game?" Kitten questioned her in this very weak voice. "I don't think I can play. It hurts so much." "No, I've decided you need to take a nap." "I am very tired," Kitten spoke and then closed her eyes. A few moments later, Kitten opened her eyes. "Can't you sleep?" Kraken asked her. "It hurts," she told her as she put her hand to where the harness handle and the contraption were. "Does your back hurt?" Kraken questioned as she moved to take the harness off. "Don't look," Kitten pleaded with her. "Why shouldn't I?" "You shouldn't see," the girl replied. "I don't want you to see. It is horrible." Kitten seemed so distressed over Kraken taking a look that Kraken told her, "I don't need to see. Sleep." "I'll try," Kitten told her as she shut her eyes. Kitten opened her eyes after a few minutes. "I still can't. It hurts too much." "SHHH." Kraken spoke as she gently pricked her shoulder with one of her claws and injected a few drops of her venom. "Sleep, little kitten. Sleep and let dreams take you to places where kittens are free and play with no pain." "I'll try," she sleepily told her again, and then her eyes closed as her venom dragged the girl into slumber. Kraken moved and untied the back of her gown. She had lied to the girl. She was going to look. She would just do so when Kitten didn't know. Kraken started removing the contraption and the harness as she wanted to discover what Kitten didn't want her to see. Kraken had difficulty removing the contraption, so she focused on removing the harness. Kraken nearly had it removed when she paused and stepped back, getting a better look at her small back. Kraken was wrong before. The harness wasn't meant as a means to keep the girl manageable, and the handle wasn't something to grab. The handle was more like some plug, and the contraption was the outlet. Someone had opened up the back of the girl's spine and inserted what looked like metal rods along her spinal column. The contraption plugged in through them with the aid of the harness handle. Kraken saw the horrors the harness was hiding. She stared at the raw wounds for a long time, understanding what she had smelled earlier. Kitten might heal, but the rods prevented her from completely healing, and her wounds were starting to fester. This tiny and defenseless child was surrounded by monsters, and Kraken was no less a fiend than one of the other monsters. She might even be the greatest fiend among the monsters. Chapter 16. Chimon's involvement. The reptile woman heard someone approach her cell. Chimon entered, holding something in his arms. "I won't give you, Kitten," she told him. "She is my prey. She is mine, and no one else will hunt her." "I don't want Kitten," Chimon told her. "I want the rods in her spine. I also want the device." "You must be talking about the contraption," Kraken spoke as she looked at the sleeping girl. "I am," Chimon answered as he moved and stood beside her. They both stared at Kitten while she slept as if they were demented parents adoringly watching their wretched girl slumber away her living nightmare. "Tell me," Kraken began. "If this girl has gone through so much, why have I never seen her cry? I thought maybe she was a clone. Now I'm beginning to wonder if the Sanctum did not just create her from bits and pieces of people. Kitten cares nothing for herself. I find that unnatural. Have you not been listening?" Chimon questioned her, and then he gave a half answer to her question. "Kitten believes she deserves punishment for some crime she committed." "Are we talking about the same girl?" "We are," he replied. "You don't know much about the Pandora project. Kitten just snapped one day and did something unthinkable. Kitten also snapped again sometime later and nearly took out a whole floor at the Sphinx Corporation 3rd branch office." Kraken peered at Kitten as if the peacefully sleeping girl was transforming before her very eyes into some monstrous creature, and then she asked, "Have I been hunting some vicious prey?" "No, I do not believe so," Chimon answered. I believe both times Kitten was not in control. Dr. Viles had been pushing her hard. You see, he was running one of the experiments at the 3rd branch office. So the burns I saw on his face, yes, they were. Well, let's say caused by Kitten, Chimin informed her. I would also say because of the experiments he had been conducting on Pandora. He got his due. I think I understand now. Kraken spoke after she pondered what he had told her. Kitten believes she must suffer through all she is suffering through. Yes, he answered. It is odd speaking to you in this way. Odd, but it does bring up fond memories of when we used to speak often. Even as I am now, I still remember the woman I was. Though, I also know I can never be her again. Kraken watched Kitten some more and then questioned him. Are you sure she is human? Who knows? Chimin replied without really answering. He had a bad habit of doing things like that, and then he moved over and touched the handle to the harness as he told her. It is ingenious on the part of the scientists. If the Pandora project is unruly, they just grab her by the handle, and it forces her to go limp. The device was never intended to be used in this manner, but they discovered it was a side effect of the contraption. A certain Kraken helped them discover this fact. She questioned him, does it hurt her when I pick her up by the handle? No more than when you plunge your claws into her. Kitten never complained once when I would carry her around in that manner. Kraken spoke, and then she asked, does she feel pain? Yes, it feels the pain we inflict on it. I only picked her up by the handle because she was cute like a kitten picked up by her scruff. He considered what she said, and then he spoke. You sound like you are bothered by what you did in fun. I am? Chimin questioned her. What does it matter that you inflicted pain? You do so when you hunt her. Kraken thought she once again heard the slight sound that had woke her when the girl first came to the sanctum. The sound disturbed her this time, disturbed her as if she should be syncing with it, but they were not aligned this time. She stated, I intend pain when I hunt her. It is part of the hunt. I do not like to cause pain that I don't intend. This world has enough pain that we shouldn't add accidental pain. If you say so. Kraken knew she was right. There was order in her hunts and there was a reason for everything, even pain. Pain caused the prey to escape the predator. Pain was part of life, and because of this, pain shouldn't be used without purpose. Chapter 17. A trade in the woman she was. Chimin and Kraken continued to watch the tranquilly slumbering Kitten. They were not doting parents but cruel adults with their own agendas. Kraken questioned him as she watched over the sleeping Kitten. Was there a reason you came to my cell other than wanting these rods and the contraption? I came to offer a trade. A better trade than what the scientist offered you. I don't know if I want to give you these rods, she admitted as she looked at the girl's back. They are inserted into her flesh and bone. I would have to remove them in again. I'll cause her pain. True, he spoke. But Pandora is asleep, so she won't feel the pain, and if you accept my trade, I have brought you something that will help her heal. He added as an incentive, once Pandora is completely healed, it will be better prey. Do you speak of the music I heard earlier? Kraken questioned him. Yes, he told her as he showed her what he held. I'll give you this player with the recording on it if you will give me the rods. Did you bring me a scalpel to extract the rods? With those specialized claws of yours, why would you need one? She sighed before saying, now you want me to go digging in Kitten's hide. Pandora's asleep. Olivia. It won't hold it against you if it doesn't know that you are the one who did so. She considered what he had said, and then Kraken considered the nature of Kitten as she spoke. I don't think she would hold it against me even if she did know I was the one. Kraken peered down at the one who seemed even smaller, and for the first time, she saw a frail and helpless child. Kraken didn't linger on her pity for her for very long, for she hadn't forgotten what else he had said. She snapped at him, don't call me Olivia. Olivia died long ago. He took her by her clawed hand and then kissed her on the hand as he said, I remember who you once were. I remember. Kraken pulled her hand from his and told him as if they had talked about nothing else. I will give you the rods and the contraption. But I want 3 favors to use in the future along with the player. Deal, Chimin told her. Kraken used one of her claws and carefully removed the rods, cutting into Kitten's flesh as little as possible. She gave the harness, the contraption, and the rods to Chimin. He set the player along with several packages of Kitten's gowns and underwear on her bed. I suggest that you use the player immediately. The faster Pandora heals, the less pain it will be in when it wakes, Chimin suggested. And then he left. Kraken stood as the lone and least likely parent of an orphaned and unwanted child. Was Kitten really human? The girl's actions would suggest she wasn't. What was Kitten really if she wasn't a girl? Chapter 18. Comparison. Kraken leaned over and pressed play on the player Chimin had given her in trade, and the melody she heard earlier chimed out. She watched as the cut she caused slowly sealed up as Kitten's wound started to mend. She was very pleased to see this and sat on the bed beside her and watched over her. Her prey. Little Kitten. Pandora. She was hers for the next week. Some time later. Where am I? Kitten asked as she woke about 4 hours later. You are in my cell, Kraken answered her. Why am I here? Kitten sleepily questioned. I'm tired of hunting sickly prey, Kraken answered. I'm taking custody of you for a while. I will make sure you become stronger. You will become stronger prey. Kitten rolled on her side and started to sit up, and Kraken could tell that her back caused her great pain as Kitten questioned her. Is it time for you to hunt me already? No, Kraken replied as she laid Kitten back on her bed on her stomach. It is time that you sleep. I am tired, Kitten spoke, and she closed her eyes as Kraken restarted the player from the beginning. She let Kitten sleep on and off the first whole day. On the second day around 8 in the morning, Kraken roused her so that they could go eat. I've never eaten with you before, Kitten spoke as they headed for a special area where the reptile woman was fed. They walked through a lab and past many aquariums filled with animals, and she noticed that Kitten had stopped in front of one. Kraken went back and saw that she was looking at a veiled chameleon. Kitten peered at her 7-foot frame, especially the cone of her head, and then the girl looked back at the reptile in the cage and said, It looks just like why. Don't say it, Kraken warned her. Would I be mean if I said it? Kitten questioned her. Would I make you sad? Kraken didn't answer her as she contemplated what would be the best way to kill the girl right at that moment. Kitten reached up and took one of her clawed fingers and said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you sad or make fun of you. You do look like the lizard except for your eyes, but I still like the you that you are. What about my eyes? Kraken asked her, thinking she must be appalled by her serpent-like peepers. She looked up into her eyes, and then Kitten answered, Your eyes are very pretty. They have what looks like a diamond swimming in a jade-green pool. When you're angry, a little lava splashes in and battles with the jade. Her misguided words quelled Kraken's anger, and she no longer thought about killing the girl. Kraken pulled her finger from Kitten's small hand and headed in the direction she had been going. Kitten ran after her. Chapter 19. What do you eat? They entered a small dining room where a chef was standing in a kitchen. Tell the chef what you would like to eat. I like birthday cake, Kitten told him. No, I want you to tell him a breakfast to prepare for you. What do you normally eat for breakfast? The same thing I eat for lunch and dinner, she replied. And what is that? I don't know. It's green and lumpy and tastes like sandy cardboard. What cafeteria serves food like that? It comes on a tray to my cell, Kitten explained. I don't really like it, but they get mad if I don't eat it all. It's nice though because they turn off the video while I eat, so I make sure to eat real slow. What do you eat for breakfast? What do you think I eat for breakfast? Kraken asked her. The girl thought about it and then answered, kittens. Chapter 20. Heart Shrinkage. Sometime later, the two of them sat at a table while they ate French toast, sausage links, and fried eggs. Kraken had coffee and Kitten had milk. The girl dove into her delicious breakfast. I actually thought you ate kittens, the girl told her through a mouthful. That's what the other kids say. What other kids? I'm not allowed to talk about them, Kitten answered. No matter. I don't care about them. They finished and headed back to Kraken's cell by a different route the reptile woman didn't normally use. They walked through a lab full of cats. Kitten was distracted by a small maintenance bot sweeping the floor, and she squatted beside it as she studied it. Kraken paused at a cage of an orange and white tabby. She reached her hand toward it, and it hissed at her. All the cats in the room turned and hissed at her. Kraken pulled her hand back and then continued on. Do you like cats? Kitten asked her after they had walked a short distance. It does not matter. They are afraid of me, Kraken replied as she found that she had placed her hand to her own chest. Kitten noticed and questioned her. Does your heart hurt? She peered at the girl, and then she looked at the cats and said, I am a monster. I have no heart. It has shrunk to nothingness. Will mine also shrink? Kitten questioned her. Mine hurts so much. Kraken didn't answer her. She had no answer for her. Kraken glanced at the cats one last time, and then she said, Come, Kitten, we have spent enough time here. Chapter 21. A Gift and a Consequence. Kraken woke later that day. She rarely slept, and when she did, it was usually for a longer period of time. She had only been asleep for about an hour. She was alone in her cell and quickly sat up. Kraken was about to go in search of her prey when the girl showed up at the entrance of the cell. Where have you been? Kraken asked. Kitten told her with a hint of excitement, I've brought you something. You were not supposed to leave my cell. You fell asleep. I didn't want to wake you. Her excitement increased as Kitten told her again. I brought you something. Kraken decided not to be angry with her. She was the predator and she was the prey. They were nothing else to each other, so she shouldn't be angry when Kitten disobeyed. Kraken asked, What is it? Something I think you'll like. Open your hand and close your eyes. Her little kitten was so cute that Kraken did as she said. She closed her eyes, and the girl set something in her hand. Kraken opened her eyes to see that she had placed a tiny kitten in her palm. Take it back. Kraken started to yell at her as she held out her hand to the girl as if a fragile egg had been placed in her palm and she was terrified she would break it. It will be frightened. Kitten grabbed her hand with both of hers and said, just be very still. It's very young and hasn't developed a fear of you. Kraken found that her heart was racing and that she was afraid. She was afraid that she would hurt this tiny thing that had been given to her. Kraken pulled her hand a little closer to herself and looked at the tiny baby. She couldn't help but see how cute it was and how it didn't appear to be afraid of her. Kraken petted the purring creature with a single claw. She petted the creature for a while, and then she asked Kitten, what will you do if I eat this small creature? You won't eat him, the girl said with a grin. You already told me you don't eat kittens. I lied, Kraken told her as she lifted the young cat up by its scruff, opened her mouth wide, and dangled the small creature over her very sharp teeth. You should know that everyone lies. Kitten's face ashened as she watched her, and then the girl turned and ran out of her cell. Kraken dashed to the hallway and yelled after her, and the girl stopped with her back to the reptile woman. Kitten spoke as she couldn't face the reptile woman. I never thought you would lie to me. I brought you that kitten because I thought it would cheer you up, but I never thought you would lie to me. If you do eat that kitten, it will be all my fault. If you do eat that kitten, I don't think my heart could take it. Your heart, Kraken repeated as she looked down at the small creature she was cradling in her hand with the utmost care. And here I thought you were indestructible, but you are a very fragile creature. My little kitten. She turned to her and asked, are you going to eat him? What if I told you? Yes, I would return to my cell and never come back, Kitten answered. For some reason, Kraken saw a flash of their future, and she didn't like what she saw. Kraken pushed back her ability she was usually more guarded about not using, and then she told the girl, I will not eat him. Promise. I promise, Kraken answered, and with that, Kitten returned to her cell as if nothing scary had almost occurred. Kraken thought about teaching Kitten another lesson about trust and promises, but she didn't think the girl needed such a harsh lesson in the already harsh world she lived in. Chapter 22. Something that should not be there. Kraken petted the tiny kitten a little longer, and then she said, you should take this kitten back before you get into trouble. No need, the girl told her. He was thrown away, so he won't be missed. You can keep him so you won't be lonely. Do you believe I feel such things as loneliness? Kraken questioned her. Yes, Kitten answered. I've been watching you. Kraken was intrigued that the prey would study her behavior. Kitten was cunning prey and maybe sly. She asked, what has the prey observed of the predator? You hunt alone. You are always alone except when you are with me, but I won't always be around. The girl replied as if concerned for the reptile woman. I am prey, and I am the Pandora project, and soon I will be killed. I should die because Kitten went silent and said no more. She understood so much about her situation in the Sanctum. The girl was innocent, but she still understood that each day could be her last. Something stirred within Kraken's heart to hear a child say such things about herself. Life, death, they were all a part of the hunt, and yet Kraken was bothered to hear Kitten say such things. The heart can experience misery, sadness, and loneliness, but my heart doesn't work that way anymore, Kraken stated as if it was true. And then she asked her, why don't you take him back to your cell? He could. I can't, Kitten abruptly interrupted her. The girl didn't like talking about her cell, but she seemed upset that Kraken would even suggest such a thing as taking the young cat there. Kitten said in a calmer voice, it's noisy there. He would be happier here. Kraken went over to her bed and sat as she asked, if I am to keep him, what should I name him? Tiger, Kitten answered. He almost looks like a baby tiger. Tiger it is, Kraken told her. Now come over here and sit and rest. We will be going out to play soon. Kitten went over and joined her on the bed and asked, where will you hunt me today? We will go to the usual place. I do hope you will act more like prey now that you have rested. I'm not tired. We could go now, she told her, then rushed out into the hallway and came back in, carrying a travel cage. Kitten said, you can put Tiger in his home while we're gone. Kraken looked her over and saw how lively she was, and she agreed with her and said, we can go now? Just do not disappoint me while I chase you. Kraken put Tiger in his cage, which had a soft blanket inside, and then they made their way to the mock city and to the park that was at its center. She hunted Kitten, and she was more energetic and faster. Kraken chased her around, and the girl started to do something she had never done before. Kraken finally knocked her to the ground. She lifted her clawed hand to strike, and she paused. Kitten looked up at her and asked, did you want to play again before you kill me? She lowered her hand and questioned the girl. What were you doing before while I chased you around? What do you mean? You were shrieking as I chased you. Kitten thought about it as if she didn't know what she was talking about at first, and then she said, oh, sorry. It's called laughing. I was laughing. I know what laughing is, Kraken said as if the girl had somehow called her stupid. Kraken asked, why were you laughing? I guess because I was having fun, Kitten answered. Kraken realized the expression that was on the girl's face wasn't horror, but a smile of joy. This won't do, she told the girl as she stood from her. relinquishing the kill. I'm sorry, Kitten spoke as she sat up, not really understanding what she had done wrong. She sensed she had somehow made the reptile woman upset, and she tried to make up for it by saying, I didn't even know I was doing it. It was just what? Kraken asked. I was having fun like we were playing a real game. Kitten looked worried, and then she asked, was that a bad thing to do? Are you angry with me? Prey should never have fun, Kraken instructed her, and by then, her anger over the issue had already passed. She turned it into a lesson as she said, Prey should be frightened and scared. Kitten thought about what she had been told, and then she asked, does that mean I'm the predator now? She lifted her hands and pretended to make claws out of her fingers like Kraken did right before she pounced. And then Kitten questioned, do you want me to chase you around? No and no, Kraken replied as she had difficulty keeping a chuckle from leaking through her lips. She managed to keep her irritated appearance and answered, it only means I should rethink my approach to this hunt. You don't want to hunt me again? Kitten asked. I can promise not to laugh. You could promise, but I don't know if you could do anything about your smile, Kraken said as she peered down at the child. She turned and started out, bidding her, come, the hunt is over for now. Chapter 23. A Day of Rest. The day after Tiger was given to Kraken, Kraken decided not to hunt that particular day. Kitten was much more worthy prey when she was well rested, so there was no sense hunting her every day as she rested. Kitten played with Tiger in the cell. Kraken watched them as they scurried around the room. She enjoyed watching the young play. Kraken could have had a scene like this of her very own. She had gone as far as to request family leave from the Sphinx Corporation, but that was before the accident. Kitten and Tiger played together. Kitten and Tiger ate together. Kitten and Tiger took a nap together. Kraken spent the entire time watching the day in the life of Kitten, a child that was a project. She considered the name they had given her project, Pandora, a woman who doomed the world. What a tragic name to give such a bizarre girl. The day went by quickly as she watched these two energetic balls of energy. Kraken caught herself laughing at them every once in a while. Again, she was drawn onto a path that could have been. She wanted a boy. Kraken even requested the maximum of family leave and was granted the 10 years of working at home. The heart can be troubled, Kraken muttered. And the heart can lose courage. She had been daydreaming and pulled from her thoughts to see that Kitten was staring at her with this peculiar look. She took hold of her clawed pinky and asked, are you all right? I am fine, Kraken answered, still pulling her thoughts from her daydreaming. Are you ready to go eat dinner? Are you sure you are all right? Yes, why do you believe any different? Kraken inquired of her after she repeated her question. She squeezed her pinky as she said, you're crying. Nonsense, Kraken said as she lifted the hand she had been holding onto and touched her eye. She was surprised to find that there were tears there, and she wiped them away. Kitten questioned her, why are you crying? She started to tell the girl that she must have had something in her eyes and that was why they were watering, but instead, Kraken told her, I was thinking about the person I used to be and the life I wanted for myself. You don't like the you that you are now. Like, I hated what they had turned me into for so long. My heart sunk into the depths of despair. I thought I would go insane, but then I found that an obsession I possessed had given me something to live for. Kraken thought about it some more. She did find something that she could live for, an obsession that gave her purpose. She was Kraken the Great Hunter. Chapter 24. Obsession. Kitten noticed that a hauntingly sad presence lingered around Kraken, so she tried to get her to talk more. You mentioned an obsession, Kitten began. Kraken popped out of her thoughts and repeated what she had said earlier. I thought I would go insane. I had no purpose in my appearance. She dropped that line of conversation and went back to what she had been talking about and said, but then I found that an obsession I possessed had given me something to live for. I love to hunt. I love to attack things and take them down. Kitten got this big mischievous smile on her face as she asked, did you just say you love me? Kraken was appalled by her question, and she uttered, what? She quickly answered her because she wanted no doubt in the girl's thoughts, and so Kraken snapped, no, never once did I say that I loved you. What part of my conversation? You said it twice, Kitten insisted. I heard you. You said that you loved me. Panic surged through her being. Kraken never wanted the girl to think for one fraction that she had any attachments to her. It would change everything. The hunt would be ruined. Kraken decided to make herself very clear. So she said, listen to me. You misunderstood me. I did say that I love to hunt, and Kitten smirked at her. And then Kraken realized that she was only messing with her as the girl said, see, even I can lie. Her smile broadened as she asked, did I do well? You did, but you should not lie. You are a better kitten when you do not lie, Kraken told her. And then she questioned, why did you tease me? Is that the type of lie I spoke? It's called teasing. Yes, why did you tease me? Kraken repeated. Because your heart was troubled and it had lost courage, Kitten replied. Do you feel better? Did my teasing make you feel better? It has. I am no longer focused on what could have been but what will happen tomorrow, Kraken replied, and then she told her, You're the prey. You have made my hunts very enjoyable. I have experienced the thrill of them once again. You have also made my life better, Kitten told her as the grin she had smiled while Kraken chased her around the day before appeared on her face again. How so? Kraken questioned her, shocked to hear such a thing from the girl. I have killed you nearly every day. How could I have made your life better? You let me sleep on your soft bed, and it's nice and quiet in here, she answered. You let me eat yummy food with you, and I can play with Tiger, real play, not the fake play they call things that are very unpleasant. Kraken started to tell her that those things were things she should expect out of life, but then she remembered what position the girl held within the Sphinx Corporation. Were those things really the only things needed to make a child happy? I don't know about you, but I am hungry, she told the girl as she stood and made her way out of her cell. Come, Kitten. We will go eat. Chapter 25. A meal of what? Kraken put Tiger in his cage, and then they walked to the cafeteria. She introduced Kitten to escargot. Kitten didn't say anything, but Kraken believed she didn't like them by the face she made when she did eat them. Kitten probably would have begrudgingly eaten all of them if Kraken had not have told her she didn't have to eat anything she didn't like while the girl was with her. She had the chief prepare the girl spaghetti with meatballs. They enjoyed their meal and took the very long way back to Kraken's cell. Kitten stopped at a door and stared at it. What are you doing? Kraken asked her. You are connected to this place, Kitten told her. You left something here. The girl turned to her and asked, Don't you want to get it back? I think it's very important. Kraken had been in a haze, so she looked all around to see where they were. They were standing in front of her old lab. She turned to the girl, wondering how she could know such a thing. I am connected to this place, Kraken admitted. I did leave something behind here, but you are mistaken. I can't regain what I have lost. Kitten looked at the door again, and then she said, Sure you can. We only have to go in and I can show you. I won't be going in there, Kraken told her, and then she tried to explain. I vowed to myself I'll never go back in there. Okay, Kitten spoke as she walked over to her. Just let me know if you ever change your mind. Kraken peered down at her as the girl stared up at her, and then Kraken asked her, Are you going to hold my finger again? I want to, but I won't, Kitten replied. I know you don't like it when I do. I don't like it and I don't dislike it, Kraken told her. It is only that it holds no meaning for me anymore. Human emotions, human sentiment. I am the product of transgenics. You do not feel. So you are not sad. And it does not ever hurt here, Kitten spoke as she pointed to her own heart. You are correct, Kraken told her. I am only a predator. The thing you referred to that I lost in my lab is my heart. I no longer have a human heart. I have the heart of a beast. A bloodthirsty beast. I don't know if that is what you lost, Kitten said as she turned as if peering through the door to her lab. She placed a hand on her own chest and said, I wish my heart could be taken out. I wish it was replaced with a. Please do not say the heart of a beast, Kraken spoke. No, I believe animals can still feel, Kitten stated. I need the heart of a maintenance bot. They have no feelings. Kitten's mind seemed to go elsewhere from her problems, and she asked, What was the T word you mentioned before and what does it mean? Do you mean transgenics? She nodded. Transgenics is? Kraken began. How do I explain it to a child? Transgenics takes two or more things that naturally don't go together and makes them one brand new thing. Someone wanted to make you the way you are, so there is a purpose for. No, I am an accident, Kraken replied before she had a chance to finish. I have no purpose. Come, Kitten. It is time that you slept. She put Kitten to bed, and the girl fell asleep as Kraken played with Tiger until he fell asleep. She placed him in his cage, and then Kraken went and sat on her chair and watched over her prey while she slept so soundly and peacefully. Kraken envied her and pitied her at the same time. Her kitten was the Pandora project, but was she the vicious creature that Chiman claimed she was? Chapter 26. The purpose of the hunt. The next day, Kraken woke to see that Kitten had risen before her and was peering down at her. Good morning, the girl called out. I have played with Tiger and fed him. What are we to do today? We will have our own breakfast and have a proper hunt today, Kraken answered. They ate and returned to the mock city where instead of Kraken just hunting her, Kraken taught her how she hunted her. Prey with more knowledge of the predator was more successful prey. They finished, and Kraken thought about having a proper hunt when Kitten asked a question. Why do predators hunt prey? To survive, Kraken answered her. Survive how? Kitten asked. Most hunt to feed. Kitten peered at her as if studying her, and then she asked, You don't eat me when you hunt me, or do you feed on something I can't see? Kraken thought about her question, and then she answered. You are correct. I don't feed on my prey in the normal way. I gain a thrill from the hunt. I feed on the excitement. There is something inside you that always wants to hunt. Yes, Kraken replied. Something within me causes me to search for prey. I think you're wrong, Kitten told her. You are supposed to search out things, but your purpose is not to hunt. What would a kitten know about these things? She questioned her. Shine your wisdom upon me. What is my purpose? Your purpose is to. SCMs showed up in the distance, interrupting their conversation. She told Kitten before they claimed her. My purpose is as I told you. I have found my own heart of darkness, and it is within me. Chapter 27. A purpose discovered. As promised, Kraken had sole custody of Kitten for a week, and then Dr. Viles came and collected her for a few hours. Kraken took the opportunity to sleep, and a few hours later, she went for a stroll through the Sanctum and informed a random scientist a few things that would expedite his experiment. He was thankful for her ability's foresight. Kraken headed back to her cell when the sound that had woken her from her deep slumber when Kitten first arrived at the Sanctum pounded through her mind, sending her into a panic. Kraken hadn't experienced such a panic in a very long time. She searched the hallway she was walking through for danger. Kraken didn't see any, but the sound seemed to be growing stronger, as if whatever was behind it was getting closer. She synced with this sound as if her purpose was about to be revealed to her, a purpose she never had considered. She extended her claws and quieted her panic so she could concentrate on what was coming. Kraken still couldn't tell what it was, so she focused on the sound. It was like the rhythmic hops of the rabbits she chased and hunted in the beginning, the rabbits that were her first prey. Kraken had been so conflicted when she first hunted the white-furred and pink-eyed lab bunnies. She heeded her instinct back then, and she heeded its warning once again just before Kitten came running around a corner toward her. Kraken. She believed Kitten was screaming because she was happy to see her, but then she saw an expression of fear on the girl's face. Kraken was about to ask her what was wrong as the girl continued to sprint for her, but then 3 mutant-looking dogs rounded the corner, chasing her. Kraken. Kitten screamed again, and Kraken was immediately on 2 of the dogs, slashing into them. Kraken fought with the mutated dogs and killed 2 of them. She was about to kill the 3rd dog when she noticed Kitten cowering against a wall. You brought your troubles to me, Kraken spoke as she put the dog in a headlock. It was no match for her strength. She noticed that blood was running down the girl's right forearm, and she was too terrified to answer. No one will face your battles for you, Kraken told her. You are alone in this world, so you are the one who has to fight. Prepare yourself. I'm going to release this beast and you must defeat it. Kitten rose to her shaky legs and asked, How can I defeat it? It has teeth and claws. I can only run. You won't know until you try, Kraken told her and released the dog. It rushed toward her wild with what looked like madness. Kitten looked like she wanted to run, but she stood her ground. The dog plowed into her, knocking her to the ground. Kraken walked over to them as Kitten screamed at the dog after it sunk its teeth into her right forearm. Kitten lifted her foot and kicked it in the head. The dog didn't release her. She continued to kick the dog, and it still didn't release her. Kraken knelt beside them. Can you think of anything else to do? She asked the girl. I don't think it will ever let go of you. The dog started shaking her and biting down harder on the already wounded arm. I don't know, Kitten spoke through sobs. I can't do it on my own. Please help me. You need to learn this lesson quickly. Our hearts can harden to those around us, so you can only depend on yourself. Most of the time, others will not help you. Kitten continued to sob her tearless sobs, and Kraken saw she wouldn't prevail over the mutated beast. I guess today's lesson can be over, she told the girl and then sunk her claws into the dog, and it fell into a deep sleep. She pried the dog's mouth open, and Kitten pulled her arm free. Kitten was slow to rise to her feet, and then she headed in the direction she and the dogs had come from. Kraken questioned her. Where are you going? Doctor Viles said to come back if I didn't die, she answered. Kitten walked on and stumbled into the wall. Kraken noticed the amount of blood she was losing as the sound that had warned her about the dogs warned her the girl had lost too much blood. Kraken quickly scooped her up and ran to the nearest medical suite as she linked again with the rhythm. Chapter 28. A problem discovered. Some time later, Kraken rushed into the medical suite and handed the bloody girl to a doctor. By the time she reached the medical suite, Kitten had fainted. Patch her up and hand her off to Dr. Viles, Kraken ordered the doctor. Chimin entered the medical suite just as Kraken was leaving, and he said, I didn't expect to see you here. Did you happen to get hurt for the first time? I've gotten hurt before. I just never let the doctors patch me up, she answered him. What are you doing here? I was tasked with tracking down Pan. Kitten, and he started to answer as he glanced in the room and said, I see that she's here. Chimin sounded very irritated as he stated, Doctor Viles let one of his experiments go somewhat wild. I lost 2 SCMs to those mutated dogs you took out. Why was something else hunting my prey? I'm not sure myself. It wasn't on the books to take place. I'm wondering if Dr. Viles got upset with Pandora and let the dogs take out his aggression on it. The dogs aren't his either. He paused and then said, I am surprised. About what? She asked. Kitten. She came looking for you like she expected you to save her. I believe she has become attached to you. Attached. Kraken repeated as she looked at the still unconscious girl as the doctor worked on cleaning the blood from the wounds and allowing unfinished Melody to heal her. Kraken stated, attachment could be a problem. It could, Chimin told her. It could be a weakness or used as a weapon. I'll fix this, Kraken promised him. Make sure you do. Attachment will not suit your hunts. Chapter 29. Attachment that weakens. Much later that day, when Kitten returned to Kraken's cell after her session with Dr. Viles and the other doctor, Kraken met her at the entrance to her cell with her arms folded. It was the evening, and the girl came back there, thinking she would stay the night again in her cell. Kraken told her, we have a problem. What sort of problem? Kitten questioned. I believe you have done something that is unacceptable. I believe you have become attached to me. Kitten thought about it and said, this is a bad thing. Yes, attachment is a weakness and can be used against us as a weapon. I was attached before, Kitten spoke. I was told that I am a weapon. I was used. I don't believe you understand what I am telling you, Kraken interrupted her, and then she informed her. I believe it is time that you stop coming here and we only meet when it is time to hunt. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get attached. It's hard not to want to have someone. I'm sorry. Kitten waited for her to say something, and when Kraken didn't, she said, I still need to stay. You still need to teach me. I thought I was your warden, not your teacher. The girl said nothing to her comment, so Kraken said, if you believe I'm your teacher, tell me what I've taught you. You have taught me many things, mostly about the hunt and how I am to be good prey, Kitten began. You said we are alone in this world and only we can fight our own battles, but you have taught me if I ask those who care about me, they will help and I don't have to fight alone. I can fight alone, but I usually win. Enough, Kraken said as she saw the girl was heading way off track. Kitten repeated, I'm sorry I got attached. You may stay a little while longer, Kraken told her. It seems I have much to teach you. Now off to the shower room with you. It's time for your bath and you need to brush your teeth. We are both going to bed early today. Kitten grabbed her things needed for the shower and skipped off. Kraken watched her leave as she considered she did have much to teach her. Kraken also needed to prove to her that she had no attachments to the girl. She was not a teacher. She was the predator. Chapter 30. Much better prey. Later that night, while Kitten was sleeping, Chimin came to Kraken's cell and requested a moment of her time. She left Kitten as the girl cuddled with Tiger, and she walked into the main corridor with him. What do you want? Kraken asked him. I want to reacquaint Kitten with a gun. She has neglected her training since she came to us from the 3rd branch office. Kitten has defanged herself, and what was once her teeth was something to fear. Are you saying she can hunt? Yes and no. Kitten's accuracy with a weapon is uncanny, but she has developed an aversion to guns. Chimin tempted her as he added, she would be much better prey if there is a challenge to killing her. Think about how it would be if the prey could be as deadly as you. There is nothing as deadly as me, Kraken told him. He questioned her, wouldn't you like to face the second deadliest thing on the planet? A wide smile of delight spread across Kraken's reptile face. Prey that was deadly, almost as deadly as her. She would like to see this would be Predator. Chapter 31. Kitten's Claws. Kraken accepted his plan and incorporated gun training in her hunts the very next day. She took Kitten to the mock city and there at the playground. She had a table specially set up for her. Go on, Kraken told her. Pick one for yourself. Kitten peered at the table full of different guns, and then she looked at the one who had been her teacher with this frightened expression. Take one, Kraken ordered her. No. Our hunt is to be different today. Take one of the guns so that you may shoot at me. You want me to hurt you? I want you to try, Kraken told her. You won't be able to, but I want you to try. I don't want to hurt anyone else. Please. Kitten begged her. Don't make me hurt anyone else. I haven't been forgiven for the last time. She got this distant, sad look in her hazel eyes as she said, there's no forgiveness for what I did. Enough, Kraken yelled. She was irritated that the glorious hunt she had envisioned happening today wouldn't be. But she guessed that they did need to take Kitten steps. Kraken told her as if to ease her concerns, you won't be hurting anyone today. All I want you to do is shoot at a target I point at. I shouldn't touch a gun, Kitten insisted. Very bad things happen when I touch a gun. Not in the hunts we will have, Kraken informed her. If you win our hunts, you can save people. We played games like that before. I won, but the people still died. Kraken told her, I'll make sure the people live who you save. Now take this weapon, Kraken instructed her as she handed her a Beretta. Kitten turned her gaze from Kraken as if she wounded the girl very deeply. Kraken shook the gun at her as if it was some treat she was enticing her to take. Kitten reached out and took it as she kept her little head bowed to the ground. She didn't look at Kraken as if she was ashamed, not of herself, but that Kraken would even ask something like this of her. Kraken didn't know her background concerning the use of guns or why she stopped her training, but it was also none of her concern. Her concern was to improve her prey so that the hunt was better. She tested Kitten and had her shoot at things that were around the city. Kitten never once missed, and her eyes did the most terrifying and mysterious thing when she did take aim. Her eyes set her face afire with these blue electrical flames, but it was a fire that didn't burn. She continued to have the girl shoot, but Kraken didn't need to know anymore how good of a shot she was. She wanted to see her face aglow. She wanted to see this Pandora that Chimin had hinted at since she took her to teach her the ways of life and death. Kraken paused in her thoughts. It would seem that she was a teacher. She just never saw herself as one. Since she became Kraken, she had been hating an instinct that had driven her to hunt. She had this need to track down her prey and destroy it. Kraken felt as though she should be hunting something specific, but she hadn't come across the right prey. Kitten may be that prey, but she wasn't there yet. Kitten was close, but Kraken didn't know how close. Chapter 32. The Sinking. They continued to walk through the mock city almost as if they were taking a stroll. It was quiet there, and since the structure was above ground, a wind gently blew over them and the surrounding trees. She looked down at Kitten. The girl hadn't been herself once since she had made her take the gun. Kraken didn't like to see her this way. It was unsettling for some reason. She usually had this small grin on her face, but an all-encompassing frown had taken over her whole demeanor. Kitten's grim mood had affected her mood, and Kraken wanted to. She was not sure what she wanted to do. In a moment of weakness, she did consider that maybe she shouldn't have made her take up the gun again. Maybe the fire that lit up her face hurt her. She didn't think Kitten would tell her if she was in pain. Kitten seemed to think she was there in the Sanctum to be punished for some great crime. Kitten seemed to think she had done something horrible to deserve a punishment, and that punishment was the life that had befallen her as a project of the Sphinx Corporation. Kraken knew this, but she had also ignored it. What could a girl like her have done that she would not see the cruel things Dr. Viles and the other scientists were doing to her were things that should never be done to a child? Kitten seemed to believe she deserved such punishment. Kraken had seen her relocate a spider so that she didn't squash it, or actually, Kraken thought the girl believed she might eat it. Kitten did not seem like the vicious monster everyone else believed her to be. Kraken couldn't imagine what she could have done to endure the punishment she had endured, but Kraken also didn't go any farther than that. She didn't ask about or intrude on her life beyond what mattered to the hunts. Kitten did not see their hunts as unnatural things. She had asked Kraken if she was her warden. Kraken was only the beast that hunted her. She had been a large part of her torment, and yet Kitten seemed, for the most part, too. Did Kraken dare even use the word? Kitten seemed to enjoy their time together. Kraken had enjoyed the thrill of the chase. Kitten, though, seemed to see something within her that was kindred to her. Kitten saw her more as the creature that was on the surface than the one that actually laid within her. Kraken laughed to herself. She did eat kittens and spiders. The stillness once again allowed Kraken to hear something pulsing that seemed to be in sync with her. She had Kitten stop shooting as they continued to walk in silence. The wind and their footsteps were the only other sounds in this city. Kraken had the sound effects turned off for the day. The sinking Kraken kept experiencing. She couldn't explain what it was, but it did seem very familiar to her the more she experienced it. It was like coming home but not knowing one was at home for a while because the surroundings had changed, but not the familiar sensation. She didn't dislike this sensation, but Kraken also didn't understand it, and that was what unsettled her. Kraken allowed herself to dwell within the anomaly to see if time would allow her to identify it, and as they continued to walk, a peace came over her that she hadn't experienced in a long time. She glanced at Kitten. Her mood hadn't changed, so she gently grabbed her hand and took the gun from the girl. She looked up at Kraken as she released her hand. Kraken said nothing to her but turned her focus back to their walking. The pulsing sound that had synced with Kraken's being didn't become louder, but it did become stronger, as if the link had fortified itself. She glanced at Kitten again. The girl had turned her focus on their walking also, and the frown, that had dug in like some invading army, had vanished. Kraken wasn't sure of the expression that had replaced it. The best that she could describe it as was content. They walked a distance apart, but they also walked as if they were hand in hand. She should discourage this type of bond between them, but the predator and the prey always shared a bond. The predator depended on the prey for its survival, and the prey depended on the predator to keep the herd healthy. Was she bringing some sort of health to Kitten? The girl had enhanced her life with her presence, but she was not sure if their relationship had been healthy for the girl. They walked some more through the mock city in quiet, in a silence that wasn't lonely or full of solitude. Kraken was actually enjoying herself, content once again to just be in the moment. Kitten had attached herself to her, and Kraken was afraid this may be the beginning of a road that ended with her completely eliminating the girl. She thought she could raise her to be better prey, but if Kitten had latched onto her, How could she see her as the predator? How could the hunt be as it was truly meant to be? Kraken allowed them to walk on for a few more minutes, and then they left the city. She allowed Kitten to stay in her cell once again. She watched over the girl from her chair as she held Tiger and petted him. Another day had gone by that Kraken had not hunted, but for some reason, she felt as though she had satisfied the instinct that drove her to hunt. Chapter 33. A Weakness. Early the next day, Chimman arrived at Kraken's cell, and he wanted to talk to her again. They both went into the main corridor to speak. "You seem happy," he said. "Why would you say a thing like that?" Kraken asked, suspicious of his purpose there. "Why would you come all this way to say a thing like that to me?" "Kitten," he replied. "She is changing you. You are not the same Kraken. Is this because you have become attached to her?" "I still don't understand why you are asking me this," Kraken said. He told her, "You are the Kraken Project. You are the great hunter, but you have gone against your own nature." "How so?" "You have not been hunting Kitten every day. You have plenty of time, and yet, even just yesterday, you just walked with her." Kraken considered what he had told her, and a link that seemed to have been forged cracked, threatening to sever again. "You should be careful," Chimman warned her. "Attachments are a weakness." She nodded, and he left. Chimman was correct. She had let some sort of sentiment get in the way of her true nature. Kraken vowed to fix it. She returned to the cell and peered at Kitten. She vowed she would fix this weakness this very day. Chapter 34. What is important? A few hours later, Kraken made sure to add 5 debs to the hunt to motivate Kitten into using the gun again. She would have her hunt. It was time she put away indecision and focused on the reason she had Kitten. Kraken was frenzied about having her hunt. "The hunt is simple," she told the girl once everything was set. "Shoot me before I reach a deb and you will save them." "I don't want to hurt you," Kitten insisted. "I am very hard to kill," Kraken told her as if to ease her fears. "You still feel pain," Kitten stated as if she needed to explain it to her as if she didn't already know she felt pain. "I don't want to hurt people, and that includes you." Kraken was angry with her and snapped, "I can't believe you. I've killed you already a handful of times. Don't you want to hurt me back for all that I've done to you?" She didn't answer her. "I will just kill the debs if you won't participate in the hunt." Kitten stared at the gun and asked her, "Am I the predator or the prey today?" "Why would you ask such a thing?" Kraken questioned her and then told her as if it was so obvious, "You are always the prey." Kitten walked over to the table, set the gun there, and told her, "I won't be a monster again. I will kill the debs," Kraken threatened her. Kitten peered up at her as if Kraken had grown and reached a terrifying 10 feet in a few seconds and towered over her like some monstrous villain. Her hazel eyes were full of worry and care as she asked, "Is that what you want? Do you want to hurt them? Do you want to hurt me?" "Hurt? No. Hunt? Yes," Kraken replied. "I want to hunt you. I need to hunt you." Kitten glanced at the debs, and then she turned and looked at Kraken with this intense stare as if she was peering deep inside her. The inner sound that Kraken synced with, the link she had cracked not hours before, the rhythmic drumming. It was angry, but it was also, the best word that she could use to describe it was concerned. It was faint, but the emotion it was conveying was strong. Kitten informed her, "You're not who you are supposed to be. I was human. Now I'm a monster. I am what they made me. I hunt things. You are supposed to protect," Kitten stated, and then she paused as if looking even deeper within her. "You are supposed to eliminate threats and protect what is important. Your instinct to hunt is out of a need to protect." "Nothing is important to me," Kraken told her as the outside anger Kraken felt became what she felt. "You. The debs. No one is important to me." Kitten turned to the debs and ordered them, "Run. Hide." The debs took off running, and Kraken rushed forward to pursue them. But Kitten moved and blocked her. "Out of my way." Kraken screamed at the girl as her emotions were what were frenzying within her now. "I have to hunt them." "You should protect what is important," Kitten insisted. "Out of my way or I will end you here." "You should protect what is important," Kitten insisted even harder. "Are you saying I should protect the debs? They are prey. Are you saying I should protect you?" "No. I am," she began, and then Kitten looked like she was going to cry when she told her, "I'm not important. I'm a monster." "You save them," Kraken said, not listening to what the girl was saying, not caring about what she was saying. "If you want them to live, you save them." She shoved the girl to the ground, and Kraken chased after the debs like a snarling wild beast. Kitten raced after her, and she grabbed hold of her tail and wrapped her entire small body around it. Kraken flicked her tail, sending her flying into a building's side. Kraken raced after the debs, and she hunted them all down and killed them. No one would tell her what she could or could not do, especially the prey. The hunt was the hunt. She was the predator and Kitten was only the prey. Chapter 35. Prey once again. Kraken had hunted down and killed all the debs after Kitten made a valiant and yet misguided attempt to stop her. Kraken rewarded her by slamming her into a wall. Kraken rose from the last deb as his blood dripped from her claws, and Kitten walked up to her holding her left arm like it was severely injured. "They're all dead," Kraken told her. "I know," Kitten said as if she would cry. "You could have saved them from me, but you didn't. I know. All my prey is dead. Now I'll hunt you. Run, little kitten. Run before I catch you." "I'm tired," she told her. Kraken growled at her. "Rest when you're dead." "Aren't you tired?" Kitten questioned her. "I rarely tire," she replied. "Now run." "I don't think I'll run." Kraken pounced on her, knocked her to the ground, and held her down as her tail twitched with her excitement over the other hunts. Her first instinct was to sink her claws into the girl, but she just stared down at her. "You should have run," Kraken told her. She questioned her. "Did you ever have something that was important to you?" Kraken didn't know how to answer her. Beside her arm injury, Kitten looked exhausted as if she had run for miles nonstop. Her exhaustion had come from a sorrow-filled and burdened heart as she spoke. "I once had someone very important to me. I was supposed to protect them, but I only destroyed them. We are alike," she told her. "They want to make monsters out of us. We are different because they succeeded with me. My little kitten isn't a monster. You're more of a mouse. You have also disappointed me today." She questioned her. "Is it time for my punishment?" "Yes, now you must face the consequences of failing to satisfy the monster within me." Kraken thrust her claws into her, and the girl's blood splattered her face. She stood from the still girl and looked around the mock city. This place would no longer do for the hunts. She had to figure out a way to encourage Kitten to use a gun. Kraken glanced at the playground in the distance and came up with an idea. She would use the girl's own instincts against her. Chapter 36. A plan to bring about the ultimate hunt. Kraken moved away from the still body of the girl and looked over her hunting ground. Today was a very satisfying day. She breathed deeply of the fresh kill-scented air. The aroma of all her prey still lingered on the wind. Her own blood coursed with the thrill of the chase. This was how her days should be, how her days should end. She started to leave and called over her shoulder. "Come, Kitten. It is time to return." She started to walk off and realized Kitten wasn't beside her. She turned around and looked at her bloody body on the ground. Kraken forgot she had killed her. She walked back over to her and saw that she was out cold with crimson staining her gown. She was still breathing, but if she left her here, she would probably bleed out. Kraken picked her up, threw her over her shoulder, and took her back to her cell. She laid her on the floor. Kraken turned on and finished Melody and then left to make arrangements with Chimin. She knew how to make Kitten use a gun again. She knew how to force her to kill. Kraken returned to her cell several hours later once she had everything set, and then she silenced unfinished Melody and woke Kitten. "It is time that you return to your own cell," she told her. "Sleep and tomorrow our last hunt will take place." Kitten sat up and looked a little groggy as she stared at her. She didn't seem to understand Kraken, and she was about to tell the girl her instructions again. But then Kitten told her, "My cell's very noisy. Can't I sleep here on your floor?" "No, you don't belong here," Kraken insisted. "This is the den of a predator. The prey shouldn't sleep here." She instructed her, "Go to your own cell." "Yes, Kraken. Before you go, you need to change out of your gown and put on a clean one, and then I want you to put this on," she told the girl as Kraken held up a new harness. When Kraken first took sole custody of Kitten, she had freed her of all her chains and the harness. Kitten had been a free kitten. The harness was a symbol of the Council's control over the girl, and Kraken was forcing her to wear it again. Kitten peered at the new harness. Kraken wanted her to see it as a representation of their relationship. They were not friends, and she was not her teacher. She was only the predator, and she was only the prey. Kitten saw the harness as she wanted her to see it. The girl bowed her head, and then she changed into a new gown. Later, she walked over to her, and Kraken put it on her. Kitten left, and Kraken thought about the hunt to come. Kitten wouldn't be able to tell her no any longer. Kraken went and slept on her bed. She closed her serpent eyes and envisioned a glorious chase. Tomorrow would be their last hunt. Chapter 37. Nightmares and Videos. Several hours later, Kraken woke and found Kitten sleeping on her floor curled up in a ball some distance from her bed. She couldn't have this. She couldn't have her prey sleeping beside her anymore. The girl had to understand her place in the food chain. "Kitten," Kraken called out. "Kitten, you can't be in here." The girl didn't say anything but started shaking like she was afraid of her. Kraken reluctantly got out of bed and moved over to her. She started to touch her shoulder, but then Kitten sat up screaming. Kraken had never heard her scream like this. She heard madness in her screams, as if the girl couldn't come to terms with something. She thought maybe the girl had a nightmare, but Kitten didn't stop screaming, as if she was stuck in the nightmare. She grabbed both of her shoulders and shook her real good. Kitten didn't stop screaming, so she pulled back her arm to backhand her. But then she paused. Kraken stared into her face and saw that she was crying. No tears, but she was crying. Her emotionless Kitten was crying. She lowered her hand as she didn't know what to do. Her screams lessened, but Kitten was still a mess. She picked her up by her harness that was no longer connected to her spine and plopped her on her bed. Kitten slowly stopped screaming. After a few more seconds went by, she asked her, "What were you dreaming about?" Kitten stared at her for a few moments as if debating to open up to her or not, and then she answered, "I was dreaming about something horrible." Kraken almost asked her what that horrible thing was, but then she decided she didn't want to know. Kraken decided to change the subject, and she asked, "Why are you in here?" "I wanted to sleep," Kitten answered her after a few more sobs left her lips. "I can sleep in here." She didn't like that the girl thought she could just come and go, and Kraken didn't want her to be comfortable in her cell. "Go back to your room and never come back here," Kraken told her as she picked her up by the harness and threw her into the corridor like someone wanted stray. She landed on her feet and then straightened as she replied, "Yes, Kraken." Kraken went back to sleep once she heard the girl off in the distance. She found, though, that she couldn't sleep, and after about an hour, Kraken went in search of Kitten's cell. She had never been there before, so she wasn't sure where it was. She finally tracked it down through the long winding main corridor and at the very end. Kraken's cell was nearly the first cell, and Kitten's was the very last, as if abandoned even among the prisoners. Not that there were any prisoners other than Kitten and Kraken among the 500+ cells. Kraken had taken care of them a long time ago. Even before she reached the cell, Kraken heard voices as if someone or someone's were with her Kitten. Who could be with her prey? The voices were angry. Who would dare bother her prey? She entered Kitten's cell and found her sleeping on the floor. No one else was there. There was no bed, there was no mat, there wasn't even a blanket. Kitten was asleep in the middle of the floor with her hands over her ears. The voices Kraken had heard before were louder, and she saw where they were coming from. Several screens were mounted on every wall, and they were all blaring the same video over and over. She went and woke Kitten and told her, "Come with me." Kitten opened her eyes, but they immediately started to droop as she asked, "Is it time for our final hunt already? Follow me." She was a little groggy as she stood, so Kraken put her hand behind her head and directed her out of the girl's cell and toward her own cell, and once they reached it, she told her, "You can sleep in here." Kitten walked in and then laid on the floor. "Kitten." There was a short pause, and then the girl said, "Yes, Kraken. Go sleep on the bed. I want my prey well rested." Kitten lifted herself from the floor and dragged herself to the bed and laid on it. Kraken went over to her chair and sat and watched while Kitten slept. Kraken considered what she had seen, the video that was playing over and over in the girl's cell. It looked like it was none of her concern. Their last hunt was tomorrow. Chapter 38. The last hunt. She let Kitten sleep longer than she wanted her to. Kraken wanted to hunt, but she also wanted her as well rested as possible. She had Kitten eat breakfast with her, and she had the same oatmeal and ham and eggs that Kraken had. She took the girl to a different part of the Sanctum that Kraken believed Kitten had never been in, and they paused outside a door. "Once we enter, our last hunt will begin," Kraken informed her. "The rules are simple. There is a table as you go in the room, and on that table is a gun. It is yours to use. I won't use a gun. Please don't interrupt me," Kraken spoke. "The gun is yours to use or not to use. We will not be in the room alone. There will be 3 others in there. You can either protect them from me or I will hunt them, and once I'm done hunting them, I'm going to kill you if you don't save them. I will kill you so that you will never wake again. Do you understand the rules as I have told you?" Kitten looked at her with this frightened expression. "Do you understand the seriousness of this hunt?" Kraken questioned her. "I have left you with no option but to kill me before I kill you. If you kill me right away, you can save either all or some of those who are in the room. It is time for us to go in. I will begin my hunt 5 minutes after the door shuts behind us." She grabbed Kitten by her harness handle and walked her into the room. There were 3 young blonde girls about her age on the far side of the room. They all looked alike. One of the blonde girls rubbed her eye with her fist as she asked one of the others, "Where are we? Wake up already?" A different blonde girl yelled at the first blonde girl, "Can't you see that they've put us in a room with a monster and some stupid girl wearing a collar and a bell like she's some pet?" The last of the triplets screamed, not the sort of scream associated with fear, but a scream of one whose language was undeveloped. Kitten looked at them, and then she turned to Kraken and said, "They're children." "Yes, they are," Kraken spoke as if it was nothing. "They're children," Kitten repeated, and then she did something Kraken had never seen her do before. Kitten started. What was the best word to describe it? Kitten started freaking out as she said, "You can't kill children. You are a child," she told the girl. "I have already killed you many times." Kitten started shaking her head like she couldn't stop as she insisted. "No. I can't do this. I can't save them. You can't hurt them." The more she spoke, the more distraught Kitten got. "We shouldn't be monsters. I don't want to be a monster anymore." The girl started to melt down as she said, "You can't hurt them. They're children. You have only about 4 minutes before I start to hunt them, Kraken warned her. Pick up the gun. I can't, she repeated as if stuck on a loop. I can't. Kitten lifted both her hands and covered her ears and started screaming her demented replicating phrase. I can't save anyone. Her hazel eyes burned until they sparked and erupted into hideous blue flames. They'll die. I can't save them. You'll kill them. I can't. Kitten's eyes took on a hellish blue glow and energy crackled from them. The glow intensified and turned purple and then green. And then her eyes took on this silver glow as she kept repeating, I can't save anyone. They'll die. I can't save them. You'll kill them. I can't. Tears started streaming down her face, and Kraken realized the tears were blood. The reptile woman froze. Kitten was turning into this demon right before her. She didn't know if she should run or start her hunt early. Her fear slowly left her as Kraken wanted to hunt this new beast, this demonic kitten. She started to. The girl bent over in agony, and Kitten started muttering incoherently and then collapsed to her knees. She started screaming again, and Kraken just stood there once more, frozen in place by a sheer sense of panic she had experienced recently, but this panic was more severe. Kitten wasn't turning into a demon she could hunt. No, Kitten was self-destructing right before her eyes. If she didn't do something, Kraken feared the girl would die a death of no return. Chapter 39. A death of no return. A horrible death neared Kitten, a death that would claim her forever. The silver electricity filled the room, and even the 3 blonde girls screamed in terror. Their screams were drowned out by Kitten's own shrieks. Kitten was dying. Kraken slowly moved over to her and knelt in front of the already kneeling Kitten. She grabbed her chin so she could lift the girl's face toward her. Bloody tears continued to run down her cheeks as the silver electricity crackling from her eyes acted like it would split the girl apart. One of her bloody tears rolled over Kraken's finger, forcing her gift to activate, and she peered into the girl's future. In that future, she saw that Kitten had less than 3 minutes to live. Those images left, and then a parallel timeline came into focus. Kraken gasped as she witnessed a different future death further into Kitten's timeline, a death brought on by guilt, loneliness, and helplessness. She grabbed Kitten's face with both of her hands as a desperation Kraken had never felt before took hold of her. The sound that usually synced with her beat away the seconds until Kitten's self-destruction. Their link fractured, and Kitten slipped further and further away from her as the girl completely blocked out everything that was around her. If Kraken didn't do something, Kitten would die a real death. Look at me, Kraken yelled at her as the girl's gaze seemed to be elsewhere. Kitten, look at me. She slowly pulled from wherever she went and peered at her with her blood-stained eyes. Calm down, Kraken told her. You need to calm down. But the children, Kitten spoke. I can't save the children. The girls are fine. You're going to kill them. I won't kill them. No, you're lying to me. Kraken knew she had to do something or Kitten would tear herself apart. Cease and be still, she commanded the girl. Cease and be still. Do this and no one will get hurt. Kitten questioned her as if she wanted to believe. No one will get hurt. I promise. I want you to calm down. Take a deep breath. That's it. Now take another deep breath. That's it. You are doing very good. Kitten continued to listen to her, and her eyes slowly reverted from the silver to the green, and then to the hellish blue. Kraken continued to coax her back until the girl's eyes lost all their glow. Kitten continued to cry, but neither blood nor salty clear tears ran down her cheeks. Kraken picked her up into her arms. The older girl, who was more like a younger girl, held onto her tightly as if Kraken was the only thing that would keep her from slipping into a dark pit of destruction. Kraken carried her back to her cell, leaving the triplets behind. Chapter 40. An end to the hunt. Some time later, Kraken cradled the girl all the way back to her cell. She set Kitten on her bed, and by then, she had stopped crying. Kraken went over to a sink, wet a towel, came back, and wiped some of the blood from her eyes as she asked, Are you all right now? She pushed the reptile woman's arm away, not wanting her to coddle her, then turned her head away from Kraken, and didn't answer. Kraken sighed, but what did she expect? She gave up on washing away the blood and said, I want you to wait here for me. Can you do that? Kitten nodded, and Kraken went to the girl's cell and watched the video that was on a loop and running on 10 different screens at different points in the video. Kitten was in the video along with other people. Kraken finished watching the video completely through, and then she returned to her own cell. She expected that the girl might run away after what she had put her through, but as promised, Kitten was there and still sitting on the bed. She refused to look at Kraken as she came in. The video that is playing in your cell. Kraken spoke as she walked over to the bed, and then she asked, How long has it been playing in your cell? Since they brought me from the 3rd branch office and had me stay in that cell. Kitten answered her without looking at her. Oh, Kraken stated as she understood more and more the reason why Kitten didn't want to sleep in her own cell. The sinking sound. The sound raged in her soul until Kraken couldn't take it any longer. The rhythm drove her to the brink of insanity, and she acted upon it. Kraken went back to the girl's cell, and she went into a fit of madness and tore all the screens apart. She didn't understand where her rage was coming from or why she was so upset. She had been in Kitten's cell before she took her to have their last hunt. Why did it matter to her that someone was tormenting Kitten? Why did it matter someone else was torturing her precious Kitten? Why did Kraken want to hurt those who had hurt the girl? Chapter 41. Confessions. The madness left her, and Kraken peered around Kitten's destroyed cell. The girl could never return there. She shouldn't return there. Kitten would probably have to return there. Kraken went back to her cell and stared at the face of the one with the blood-stained tears. I don't want to be a monster anymore, Kitten confided in her as she finally looked at the reptile woman. She was able to look at her again as if the girl had forgiven her for what she did with the triplets. Kitten added, I don't want you to be a monster anymore either. All this time, Kraken spoke as her spirit was moved by some outside force. I've chosen to be the monster. I never once fought it. I never even consider I could fight it. Today, I wanted something more than the hunt. I wanted to save you. Tell me, do you know what was happening to you in that other room with the 3 little blonde girls? I didn't want to lose again, Kitten started to answer her. People die when I lose, and no matter what kind of monster we become, we should never hurt children. Kraken's icy heart that she believed was only a beast's heart melted away as she spoke. Kitten, you are a child. I am a monster. No, you are a child. The doctors here have hurt you. I'm a monster, she insisted. You are a child, and I have hurt you, Kraken said as if she needed to confess it. All the evil she had done to this child weighed on her. She was the monster, not Kitten. The girl said, I can't be a child anymore. I've done very bad things. She stared at the girl before her, not a kitten, not the Pandora project, but a girl. Our hearts can become cold, Kraken told her as if revealing her own grim journey. We are taught to do this. Our hearts can shrink in the face of fear. Our hearts can be completely unyielding and hold a grudge. It can clutch envy, and the heart can hold on to jealousy. We can lose heart. One of the worst things is that we turn our hearts away from those who are hurting. I have turned my heart away from everything around me. I had to. It was the only way I knew how to survive. You are making me look. Kraken's face curled up into a slight snarl, but only so she wouldn't cry as she continued. I don't want to see. I was happy not knowing, but look what you made me do. I ended a hunt so you wouldn't get hurt. I'm sorry. Why are you sorry? Kraken asked her. I'm sorry that you thought you were happy. You're not. You are like me. You are miserable. Can you see that now? Kitten questioned her. You haven't realized your purpose yet. What is my purpose? She asked the girl. I can't tell you. You have to find out yourself. Leave, Kraken ordered her. Don't come back here. The hunts are over. Kitten said nothing to her, bowed her head, and left. Silence followed, and Kraken found the quiet to be a persistent judge. She was such an evil creature. They should have destroyed her long ago, not allow her to continue to be Kraken. The beast with a heart. The beast that could only hunt. Chapter 42. The dreaded day. The next day came, a day Kraken dreaded all year, and it had nothing to do with Kitten. Kraken slept most of the day away, but then she woke and pulled out a large box that was under her bed. She started to look through the photos and other contents of the box as she thought about what Kitten had told her. She had no purpose but to hunt. Kraken became angry, so she threw the photos across her cell, scattering them, and then she started to hunt. She hunted anything that crossed her path. Soon, Kraken had taken out several employees, and the SCMs were sent in. It took 5 units, but they managed to bring her down by shooting her enough times to cause her to black out from blood loss. She woke later, and she was strapped to an examining table. Chimin was in the room. He was the only one in the room. Her bullet wounds were still seeping blood, but for the most part, they had all started to slowly heal. You went out of control again, Chimin told her as if he needed to. You always go out of control on this day. You would think I would remember this and try to do something to stop you. How could you stop me? Kraken asked him as she tried to groggily sit up. I could have you sleep through this week, he told her. Chimin turned to her as she couldn't seem to sit up. Concern was on his face as he said, It is my fault, you know? What is? Kraken asked him as she saw the reason why she couldn't sit up. She was secured to the examining bed, and even her strength wouldn't release her from her bonds. The way you are, he replied. I finally figured it out. Why you are so predatory. She stopped resisting her bounds and laid back as she stated as if he should know. It is the DNA of the beasts that are all inside me. What did you expect would happen when you mix chameleon, snake, feline? The leopard was your idea. Chimin interrupted her like she needed to be reminded. It was and is probably the reason for the way I am. But we were not supposed to experiment on a human. We were years away from experimenting on humans. We should have never even thought of improving human soldiers' DNA with animals. It was an accident, he told her, drawing her thoughts from their ignorance back then. Chimin said, but I think I should tell you there was something else in the mix. Something none of us even talked about putting in the recipe. The animals you listed are predators, but I believe they aren't the reason why you are so obsessed with hunting. There is another thing within the mix, and I believe it is the reason for your hunter instinct. What is that? She asked. I will first tell you it was an accident, but one I am very pleased happened, Chimin said as his eyes became filled with his excitement that brought him joy at her expense. A white blood cell became a part of the mix, and I believe it is the reason you're so predatory. The white blood cell is the reason you seek and destroy. A white blood cell. Kraken exclaimed as she thought more and more about what that would mean. She questioned, what type? Is it of human origin? I will answer all of those questions at another time, he replied. You did wake up sooner than I thought, and I don't need you just yet. I still have preparations I need to make, so I am going to give you a very strong sedative. He gave her an injection as she growled at him. Kraken quickly fell into sleep, and his voice trailed into the distance as he said, I want Kitten to also participate in what I have planned for. Chapter 43. Kitten's what? Kraken woke, and she was still strapped to the examining bed. Chimin was still the only one there, and he was smiling at her. Why did you do this to me? She asked. He informed her, I'm conducting an experiment right now, and I need your assistance. You said that before, she stated, and then she asked him, what sort of experiment? As you know, I have been urging you to encourage Kitten to take up the gun again. You did try, but you couldn't find the right motivator. I believe you were on the right track, though. What are you going to do? She questioned him. Kraken wondered if she was in the room other than the reason that she had gone out of control again on the anniversary of when she became Kraken. Chimin inquired of her, do you understand the relationship you have with her? It is very unique. You have become a teacher to her and she has become many things to you. I threw Kitten away. She snapped at him as she was still very irritable over her own. She wasn't sure the word she was looking for. Kraken informed him as if she needed to. I will have nothing more to do with her. So what do you believe you can do? I will dangle Kitten's kitten in front of her, and I bet she will come running like a mother cat. Kraken wasn't sure of his meaning at first and repeated the words, Kitten's kitten. Kraken was the one tied up, so he must mean. She questioned him, are you implying that I'm her? Chimin answered, I did hint at that your relationship has many levels. Kitten has become very protective of you. I want to see how protective. You know I won't cooperate, she told him as she considered killing him. She also didn't like what he implied she was to Kitten. If she got a chance, Kraken would rip through her bonds and show Chimin why no one ever dared mess with her. She would show him his grave mistake. I just need for you to sleep a little longer, he told her. Everything is nearly ready. Chimin injected her for a second time, and Kraken again fell asleep. Chapter 44. The Dangled Kitten. Some time later, Kraken woke, and she was a little disoriented this time. A lot of her memory from the past few hours was a little scrabbled. It slowly returned and she remembered some of what had been done to her. Chimin had gone and done it. He had to be mad. He captured Kraken during one of her most vulnerable times, and he hinted at that he was going to do something to her. Why am I here? Kraken inquired as the sedative still held hostage some of her memory. He seemed to ignore her statement, and he asked her, do you recognize the room we're in? Kraken looked all around as her memory from before came back in trickles. She didn't recognize the room at first, but then she did recognize where they were. They were in the room where the accident happened. Release me from these bonds, Kraken ordered him. I never wanted to come back in here. You shouldn't have brought me back in here. I know, and I do apologize, but I need to upset you to bring out your fear and rage, he stated as if she would forgive him. I need you to do something for me. I already told you I won't cooperate, Kraken insisted as she felt the fear and rage within her churning like some violent sea. Your cooperation isn't needed, Chimin informed her, and she almost could have sworn she saw him smirk. All I need from you are. He turned around to the small machine he was standing at. He flipped a switch to the machine that looked like it was part of the intercom system. Chimin lifted what looked like a remote, and he pressed a button, and electricity shot through her entire body. ... Your screams. Kraken lost control of herself as the electricity assaulted her system, and she screeched. She screamed as pain took over all her thoughts. She screamed, and then he pressed the button again and her agony stopped. I have an agreement with the council. You can't do this to me, she informed him once she was able to talk. Don't worry, he spoke. I gained permission from the council majority to conduct this experiment. That fact will not save you, Kraken stated, and then she threatened him. When I get free, I'm going to kill you. You will if you get free, he said, and then Chimin sent another round of electricity through her body. She screamed for some time, and then the second round ended. It took longer before she was able to talk, and then she asked, "Why are you doing this? I told you, or have you not been listening? You are Kitten's kitten. She'll be coming for you soon." Chimin moved over to a few screens with surveillance videos on them. "See," he began. "Kitten's already on her way, and look. She's carrying a gun, all because she heard your cries." Kraken struggled all the more to free herself. Chimin had forced Kitten to take up the gun, and the last time Kitten had any dealing with a gun, she nearly self-destructed. Kraken had to save Kitten. She had to save her before it was too late. Chapter 45, Mama Cat. Kraken pressed against her bonds that kept her strapped to the examining bed. Normally, she wouldn't have any problems ripping through them with her enhanced strength, but with all the wounds she sustained from the SCMs, along with the sedative that had yet to completely wear off and the torture Chimin had put her through, she was nearly as weak as a kitten. They were both watching Kitten as she made her way to Kraken. The girl had such determination on her face. Chimin watched as 3 SCMs blocked the girl's way, and Kitten lifted her gun to shoot them. But then she spotted the camera and shot it first. A smart little thing, isn't it? You must be so proud, Kraken. Stop this, she yelled at him. She shouldn't wield a gun. Kitten will start to self-destruct again. I did see her earlier meltdown, Chimin stated. Most odd, wasn't it? He watched the screen and said, Your kitten is also quite amazing. A few minutes later, Kitten showed up with the gun and entered the lab. She pointed the gun at Chimin and asked, What are you doing to Kraken? I am conducting a test. I only wanted to see if you would kill to save Kraken. Kitten moved over to Kraken and started to free her. She saw that Kitten's eyes were glowing that terrifying blue. You shouldn't have killed to save me, Kraken told her as it pained her to think that the girl had to go through such a thing. You should have remained the innocent prey. My experiment worked, Chimin stated with an excitement Kraken hadn't heard from him in years. Kitten, you've killed to save your teacher. She released her, and then Kitten informed Chimin, I haven't killed anyone. You don't have to kill to save. She turned and shot him in the leg, and Chimin screamed as he grabbed his wound. You had to have killed, he said as he held his wound seeping with blood. There were so many soldiers blocking your way here. The blue glow of Kitten's eyes faded as she explained to him, I shot them as I shot you. Most stopped their attempts to prevent me from coming here. The others I threatened with shooting them again. Chimin didn't look too happy as he limped for the door, and he left the lab, seeking medical treatment. He miscalculated how Kitten would react. A bullet through his leg was never one of the possible outcomes he had envisioned. He would have to be very careful in the future. Chapter 46, Lessons of the Heart. Kitten had tracked down Kraken and taken care of Chimin, and the girl finished freeing her. Kraken got off the bed and grabbed both of her shoulders and told her, You shouldn't have come for me. Why not? You needed saving. I can take care of myself. You were screaming, Kitten told her. I had to save you. You don't need to save me. They can't really hurt me. They have already tried. You don't understand, Kitten said. I need to start saving lives. I need to save many, many lives to make up even just a little for what I've done. Save others then, Kraken insisted. Don't ever worry about me again. Haven't you paid any attention to the things I have taught you? You have taught me many things, Kitten spoke. Maybe it is time I taught you a few things I have learned over the years. What can a kitten teach me? She said, You believe the heart is fragile, but it can also be very strong. I imagine you have experienced as I have that the heart can be broken, but it can also mend. I've had my heart torn in two, but I'm hoping it can be made whole again. The heart can be shattered into hundreds of pieces, and each piece can be in pain, and even if the heart has deep scars afterward. The heart can slowly pull itself back together no matter how many pieces it was shattered into. She grinned as she said the next part as if she was thinking of something with fondness from a childhood memory. A wise doctor once said that the heart can be 2 sizes too small, but the heart can also grow 3 sizes in a day. Your heart might feel like it has shrunk to nothingness, but someone else's heart can fill that void if you let them. The heart can experience misery, sadness, and loneliness, but it can also find joy, happiness, and friendship. Kraken started to argue with her, but Kitten continued, determined not to be interrupted. The heart can be troubled, but it can also be calm. A heart that has lost all courage can find courage again. The heart can sink to the depths of despair, but that same heart can lift us as if we soar on wings of eagles. We can find the heart of darkness, but a light can also shine in our hearts. You might think that your heart is hardened to those around you, but if my heart, that has experienced all those bad things that you have taught me about, if my heart can become wide open to those around me again, so can yours. Our hearts can become cold. It can shrink in the face of fear. Our hearts can be completely unyielding and hold a grudge. It can clutch envy. And the heart can hold on to jealousy. We can lose heart. But if all of that can happen, you should know, our hearts can spread warmth. It can be undaunting in the face of fear. Our hearts can reject the path of hatred and forgive. It can be content, and the heart can hold another's hand. We can take heart. We can place something within our hearts to safeguard it. She paused, and then she said, Kraken, we don't have to be the monsters the council wants us to be. Kraken stood there stunned by what she had told her. When did her wretched little kitten learn all of this? I have never heard you talk so much, Kraken stated. When did you become so talkative? Kitten didn't answer her but just smiled. She was very proud of the girl at that every moment. Kitten had learned all of those wonderful things even while darkness and misery surrounded her. She was a horrible teacher, but thankfully it seemed, Kitten had a good teacher at some point. Chapter 47, Shared Pain. Kraken thought SCMs would be barreling into the room since Kitten had shot Chimin, but none of them ever showed up. So much had happened in the few weeks the girl had been there. So much had happened in Kraken's life because of Kitten. She took several steps back from the girl and stared down at her as Kitten peered up at her. What were they to each other? Kraken had only considered the girl prey. It would seem their relationship was deeper than hunter and quarry. More time passed as they looked at one another in silence, and then she considered everything the girl had told her since releasing her from her bonds. And Kraken spoke. You must have had a teacher before me. I had a few. People and friends I grew to care about a lot, Kitten confessed as if it hurt. Who are these friends and people who care about you? She looked at her and didn't answer. Kraken became angry as her anger could be as great as her patience, and she demanded, tell me who they are. What are you afraid of? Kitten asked her as she took a step toward her. I am afraid of nothing. Why are you trembling? Kitten questioned her. Do you want me to hold your finger like I did that first day I came here? Kraken hadn't realized she was shaking. She blamed it on the sedative and the wounds that were nearly healed. She questioned Kitten, why would I want you to hold my finger? Because you are like me and you are sad. So very sad. I don't care about you, Kraken insisted. She didn't know why she snapped at the girl. It was as if Kitten was shredding layers of Kraken's skin to get to some hidden truth. It did hurt as she peeled away these layers. It hurt a lot, and Kraken told her as if it were true. I'm incapable of caring. Kitten walked up to her and said, I will hold your pinky. Just tell me you want me to. I don't want to be smacked again. I don't want you to hold my finger. Kraken yelled as she vowed within herself, not to let the girl peel away any more of the layers. She vowed not to let the girl see what was hidden. Kitten moved still closer to her, wanting to help the one who was like her, who was feeling as much pain as her. And she said, it's okay. I'm here. It's okay. Stop talking to me like I'm some child. Kraken griped as more layers were shredded and fell from her hardcore. I'm not a child. I'm not your kitten. But you are hurting, Kitten insisted. Why do you think I'm hurting? Do you see me crying? Your soul is, the girl replied. It hasn't stopped shedding tears today. Is this day like my tragic day? Did you hurt someone precious to you? Shut your mouth. I also don't know what to do with my sorrow, Kitten admitted as she turned her head away from the reptile woman and placed a hand to her own chest. I only know I must be punished. My pain should equal the pain I caused. My pain should be greater than the pain I inflicted. Kraken didn't know what she was talking about. The girl had hinted at doing something wrong. It must have to do with the scene on the video. The scene Kraken vowed never to mention to Kitten because it seemed too terrible to repeat. Kraken had vowed this as she had vowed never to return to this miserable room, the very room she stood in now. She turned her frustration over one broken vow and focused it on the girl as she told her, You know nothing about me. What could someone like you know about grief? Kitten stared at her for a long time as if she was debating saying something to Kraken, and then she stated with grief thick on her lips, She started to cry tearless sobs, and then she tried to say, I became a monster and I. Kitten fell silent, unable to open up completely, and Kraken realized that the girl's pain was as great as hers. Kraken also knew there was no consoling things like them. Kraken's grief wasn't over a life lost, but a life she could never give birth to. Leave me alone. Return to your room, Kraken ordered her. You shouldn't be alone today, Kitten said as she wiped her own eyes as if she had tears. Your sorrow is greater today than it has ever been. She walked over to her and took her pinky and said, It's okay. I'm here. I'm not your kitten. Kraken yelled at her, and then she knocked her to the ground and went in for the kill. She would strike her heart this time to destroy the vexing child, the infuriating girl. There would be no more hunts after this. Their time together had come to an end. Chapter 48. The sinking of all her anger, all her rage. It filled Kraken's arm with a need to strike. She would strike the one who had been such a nuisance to her. Kraken was posed ready to kill the vexing child. She extended her claws and moved to thrust her hand through Kitten's chest. But she stopped herself. A tear was streaming down her own cheek as she stood over the girl inches from her face. Kitten reached up and took her finger again and held onto it. Her touch this time broke through all her defenses, and Kraken pulled back from her, sat on her knees, raised her hands to her face, and cried. Kitten moved, and then she wrapped her arms around Kraken, holding her tightly to her. "I am here," Kitten told her as she gently rocked the reptile woman. "You are not alone." The side of Kraken's face was on Kitten's tiny chest, and she heard something. Kraken wanted to pull away, but then she heard it again. She heard Kitten's tiny heart beating, and the rhythm of it soothed her rage. The sound. This distinct sound. Her heart was what Kraken had heard when Kitten first arrived at the Sanctum. Her heart was what her body or her own heart synced to. Kraken closed her eyes and listened to its beating as Kitten stroked her head like she was the child. She must see Kraken as her kitten. She allowed Kitten to console her. She allowed the girl to ease her rage and sorrow. Kraken's ability kicked in, and she saw Kitten's past. A past soaked in blood and lies. She saw her present and all the people she had come into contact with, and then she saw her future. Kitten's heart continued to beat, and Kraken saw the road that lay before the girl. Kraken cried all the more. She found that she was crying, not for herself but for the wretched, precious little kitten that she had become very fond of. She would protect her. Chiman had said it himself. Her DNA was also comprised of a white blood cell. White blood cells were hunters of the body, but they were also protectors. She would protect her little kitten when the crucial time came. Kitten's future was grim, but it would also be full of joy. A time was coming when they would be separated, but Kitten would come back into Kraken's life at a time. It would be a time like when Kitten came into Kraken's life to bring a little light into her darkness. Kraken would re-enter Kitten's life to show her a path where the twilight would bring the dawn. She would show Kitten there was hope, as Kitten had shown her that she could care about something again. It would not be easy. They would have to be separated for a long time. Kraken vowed she would treasure the remaining time she had with the young kitten, and she also vowed she would protect and help the older kitten when the time came. For now, she would be Kitten's kitten. As there was a once upon a time, there should also be a happily ever after, but this was only the beginning of their tale. It was also the inception of a story that would bring many characters together from all over the planet. Some would do good, and some would commit evil acts, but all would have to decide which side to take. They would either help bring about a doom for a planet, a doom that would usher in a twilight before the dark, a darkness that would engulf the entire planet, or they would bring about a hope that would bring about a twilight before the dawn and destroy the dry clouds plaguing the earth. Read more about Kitten's adventures as she finds her way through a world governed by corporations, policed by soldiers, and enforced by legal assassins known as life closers. The end. There are 2 ways to continue Kitten's story. The first way is to click this link for the novel Shades of Grey #1 Noir, City Shrouded by Darkness, and listen to the audiobook and learn how to grab the free ebook. You can also find a link to the audiobook in the description. The Shades of Grey series follows Kitten, who is also known as the Pandora Project, as an adult in her adventures to discover who she is in a world of endless night. The second way to enjoy more of Kitten's story is to read the Kitten and Kraken'a series on Amazon. Kitten and Kraken'a series is based on this novella and will introduce new characters not seen in the novella. Click on this video and learn how to start reading Kitten and Kraken'a series and how to grab 200 free tokens so that you can read part of the series for free. If you enjoyed the audiobook, don't forget to like and share.